And we are live. Welcome, guys, to the Sartain Report. Excited to get into it, guys. Let's get into this thing really quick. Let's go ahead and get it started. Here we go.
Speaking of the sort of current world of lux maxing, guys trying to rise to the top of the level as much as they can, what's the myth of the Chad?
Well, so I wrote this piece, The Myth of the Chad, and I think I dropped it in the group chat, which is
for a little bit of context for you guys. This is obviously Chris Williamson, Modern Wisdom Podcast, the top 10 podcast in the world. That is Rob Henderson. He's in the evolutionary sciences. I love this guy's content, love his work. I just bought his book the other day, subscribed to his Substack. He has this article he wrote, I believe it was for the New York Times, I could be wrong, was The Myth of the Chad. By the way, you guys see the stuff on I have a sunburn on my face, so that's why I look a little shiny. I got stuff on there. Just want to let you guys know. So he writes this book called The Myth of the Chad. And then one of the things that he goes over with is when I see this video, I end up contacting Rob, and he writes me back on Twitter. I'll show you guys this in a second, but I want you guys to pay attention to this because it's right. It's mostly right, but a lot of it's wrong. But a lot of this is going to make sense to you when you hear it, because this is one of the issues that's going on. It's that, like, hypergamy doesn't always make women look the best. As a globalized, unregulated sexual marketplace, a lot of times there's things that happen that are kind of ugly, and that's what is elevated here. And because of that, there are certain content creators who take advantage of this and make it really, really ugly. And then so that these guys are kind of pushing back. And I'm not really pushing back against these guys, but I do want to show you some nuance, because what I don't want you to think is this idea that, what I don't want you to do is think of this idea that there's a small group of guys getting a ton of sex, and there is a massive group of guys getting almost none. That is true. And you're going to hear some words in this next comment that make it seem like maybe there's a little bit less of that going on. Let's just pay attention to what you hear, guys, and then you tell me what you think.
Long time we've heard this story. I think you and I talked about this on a previous podcast, Chris, because it made some level of intuitive sense that as the dating marketplace has become more deregulated, people can meet each other.
The idea of a deregulated mating marketplace.
We live in late sexual capitalism. Yeah. And so now you have, with dating apps, online dating, people can meet each other more easily. We are supposedly placing more value on looks as a result of social media, dating apps, and so on. So the story was, and we saw some statistical trends that supported this notion, at least initially, that a small percentage of men were getting the majority of female attention, and that men sort of on the lower end of mate value were getting increasingly less female interest. And so the story was, what was it, like 20% of men are getting 80% of the attention? There's some truth to that, at least with regard to sort of match rates and swipe rates on Tinder and so on. But if you look at the actual data, you dig into it, and more statistics and findings have come out since you and I've had those discussions a few years ago, suggest that actually that story isn't completely true. That in fact this has been going on for a long time, that very attractive men have always had the opportunity to mate with more women. So you look at the data, it looks like something like about maybe 18 to 20% of men report having 3 or more sexual partners within the past year. And that really hasn't changed since about the year 2000, which is as far back as I could find data on this.
Okay, so real quick, I just want to go over this real quick, just to make this make a little bit more sense. So this is such a not convoluted, but this is such a nuanced thing. And after this video came out, I wrote Mac and Murphy. Rob Henderson wrote me back on Twitter. Mac and Murphy and I corresponded on Instagram. I'm not going to share those messages because they're private correspondence, but I will tell you about what we talked about. And same thing with Steve Stewart Williams. I contacted him and he wrote me back. Steve Stewart Williams is an incredibly, incredibly gracious human being. By the way, I highly recommend you guys follow his Substack and buy his books. Okay. And we had this discussion because the answer is somewhere in the middle, and we're going to get to this in a second. I think most of us who've been dating, like seriously, for the last 5, 10, 15 years, you understand that things have become a little bit more tilted. You don't really need the data to show you that it's been more tilted. You just experience life on dating apps or if you go on social media. But the problem is, what we don't want to be, especially on this program, is trust me, bro science, bro science, whatever. We don't want to use that. We actually want to use a lot of peer-reviewed data. And there's a lot of peer-reviewed data that's actually in this episode, this roundtable. And so what I want to do is have a little bit of nuance. What I don't want to do is say the Chads are stealing all the women. One of the problems that I have with this video in and of itself, we'll go back, let me shrink it down here. If you guys right here, you see it's Chads aren't stealing, I don't know what just did that. You guys see it, what it says down here at the bottom, it says Chads aren't stealing all the women. And so one of the issues, one of the reasons why I want to do a reaction to this is because this video title is using the same lack of nuance that this video is claiming that the Manosphere creators are not using. Does that make sense? Manosphere creators, or people who just watch male self-improvement content in general are not saying the Chads are stealing all the women. That's a straw man. And then this is a response to the straw man by using that title. And that's why I'm responding to it. I'm not saying maybe Chris had some AI that made this title up or whatever, but that's not a fair assessment. Just like the idea of the 4 people that you saw on inside the Manosphere is not a fair representation of the Manosphere. Even Louis Theroux states this is a more extreme version of the Manosphere, except for Justin Waller. I think Justin Waller got railroaded. Justin Waller's super, super cool guy. But when you see this, that when I say Chads aren't stealing all the women, the argument wasn't that Chads are stealing all the women. The argument is that there's a group of men at the top who are having a disproportionately large amount of sex with women, and a group of women at the top who are having a disproportionately large group of sex with a large group of men. And what the argument you're going to hear here is the socio-sexuality argument, and you're going to hear this. You've heard it from Alex from Date Psych. You're going to hear from Rob Henderson, and later you're going to hear it from Greta Devereaux, which is the girl who went on that video with clavicular, talking about all the women who go on with clavicular are idiots for going on there, and then she went on with clavicular. She makes the same argument. And while I'm going to accept this argument on its face initially, I'm going to show you why there's some nuance because it's a little bit confusing. I had this conversation with Mackin because I showed him the data from the GSS for how many men women sleep with and how many women men sleep with, and the numbers don't match up. And we're going to go over that. So we're going to get a little nerdy, but this is, again, this show, this whole Sartain report, the whole main reason I want you to watch this report and watch this show in general is because I want you guys to be armed is not the word I'm looking for, but I do want you to be equipped with the proper understanding on the things that you can say and be academically backed and still have a reasonable conversation with people without coming off as a fucking misogynist. And that's the main thing I want to do here. I love women. Most of my friends are women. I just hosted a huge beauty pageant last night. Congratulations to Maya Sofield. We're sending her to the Dominican Republic. She's going to the finals. This is not an anti-woman. Women are all at fault. 304 hoes. We're not talking about any of that here. But we do need to understand the problem or else we can't get past the problem. If we keep acting like hypergamy isn't real or that this marketplace that we're in is just equal for everyone, then we get into a place like a guy who has stage 3 prostate cancer. He goes to the oncologist and the oncologist says, hey, sir, I just want to let you know, this is treatable. It's going to be difficult, but you have stage 3 prostate cancer. And the guy responds, he goes, no, prostate cancer isn't real. Okay, well, what happens to the guy who doesn't believe prostate cancer isn't real? Well, it's the same thing that happens to the guy who believes that hypergamy isn't real. It's the same thing. I'm not saying hypergamy is a cancer, but hypergamy is an issue that you have to pay attention to. And if you don't, then what happens is you keep getting further and further down this path where it's like, just be yourself. Go up to women and smile. Use dating apps. You'll get a girl. There's a soulmate out there waiting for you. Speak it into existence. Have good energy. Have good aura. And you start believing this. And what happens is in the real life dating market, you guys know, any of you who've been dating, you're just going to keep falling further and further behind. Okay. And that's not what I'm looking for, right? That's not what I want for you guys.
And so you might think, okay, well, there you go. You got the Chads. The 20% of men are getting 3 or more partners a year. Those are the guys, hogging all the women. But then when you look at the sexual behavior of women, you find essentially the same pattern, which is that something like 12 to 18% of women also report 3 or more sexual partners a year. And what this means.
Okay, you guys understand 3 or more sexual partners a year is a good metric. I'm not criticizing Rob for this metric. A metric I would have used and said is the top 10% most promiscuous men. Are they getting more sex over the last 20 years or less? And the answer is, you guys know it's more. It's significantly more. Since 2004 to 2024, they're getting about 1/3 more sexual partners. So that's one thing I would use. Getting 3 or more sexual partners, I can understand that. Like most people do not have 3 sexual partners in a year. Some of you guys are listening to me right now and they're like, yeah, that sounds right. Some of you guys who live in Brickell or live in Los Angeles or live in San Diego or Scottsdale or live in Las Vegas or Dallas or go out in Austin and party every weekend, you're like, 3 sexual partners in a month? Is that what you meant? 3 sexual partners in a week? No, 3 sexual partners in a year. Most people do not have more than 3 sexual partners in a year. And so it's really interesting. When you listen to this is the metric that he's using to say, well, most people are in this 3 sexual partner per year range. That's actually not the myth of the Chad, though. The myth of the Chad is the guy who has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sexual partners, who comes in and he becomes almost like a meteor going through almost like a planet going through a meteor field, just collecting all of these other females around him that start orbiting him. That's the issue that we're talking about. Like, you're at a party and then someone who's super famous shows up and then all the women just leave all the guys to go talk to this guy. That's the myth of the Chad. And by the way, that is a myth. For the most part, that is not how the world works. But that's the thing that I think needs to be addressed here, not necessarily who just had sex with 3 people in a year. But I do think this is a good metric. I just don't think this is the only metric you should look at.
Is that the vast majority of men and the vast majority of women have relatively unexciting sexual lives. The most common response to the question.
Hold on, I know he didn't mean it like this, but you can have sex with 3 women in a year, have an extremely, extremely exciting sexual life. Okay.
How many partners have you had in the past 12 months is 1, followed by 0. So most sex is going on in relationships, followed by people not having sex at all, and then a small fraction of men and a small fraction of women who are high in socio-sexual orientation, very promiscuous and open to short-term mating. They're having a lot of sex with each other. At least
partly attractive as well, presumably.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. You're physically attractive. And
so this is where I am going to push back a little bit, and I can look at a little bit more data on this. I think there are men who have sex with a lot of women who are not socio-sexual. Okay, that's probably not incorrect. That's probably not correct the way to say it, because they're more inclined to short-term mating. What I'm saying is, you have the same man and he has no options with women, he's going to have fewer sexual partners. You take the same man and all of a sudden he becomes a rock star in a huge band, he's going to become socio-sexual. It wasn't like there was a socio-sexual proclivity in him other than the fact that he was a man. And so I'm just saying, I think it's a little different for men and women. I think for women, it's like if there's a decision to accept all the sex that's been given to them, but most women can get a great amount of sexual partners. The vast majority of men can't. So I think socio-sexuality means something extremely different for women than it does for men, in part because women are offered sex so much more than men are. So to match them up as if they're the same is just to say these are highly promiscuous men and highly promiscuous women. Here's where I'm going to differ. You can be a highly promiscuous woman and not be very attractive at all. For you to be a highly promiscuous man, we're not including sex workers. For you to be a highly promiscuous man, you have to be attractive. Do you guys understand? Does anyone disagree with me on that? In order for you to be a highly promiscuous man, if you're a man and you've been with 500 women, you did something. There's some logistical advantage you have. You're either really good looking, really funny. You live in a city where there's just beautiful women that are available to you all the time. Again, I'm excluding sex work things, trips to Colombia or whatever. I'm excluding trips to Thailand or Brazil. I'm just saying, in general, for women to be promiscuous is a choice that they make because sex is available to them on a regular basis. For men to be promiscuous, it's also because sex is available to them, but these men also have to have a lot more going for themselves. Because you guys have probably met women before who are not exceptionally attractive, but can be very, very promiscuous.
What I suggest is that because dating apps have made this sort of frictionless, and because social media has created this kind of panopticon where men in particular, you got sort of the pickup artists and red pill guys who claim to be very successful with women, bragging about how many women they've hooked up with, and then you have the incels on the other side of this, who are not bragging, but I guess whining and complaining about how little sex they're having. This gives you the impression that, oh wow, you got one segment of guys who are having all of the sex, and then you have this other section of guys who are having none of the sex, and then women are just passive bystanders who are maybe getting duped by the pickup artists or the chads or something. But what this suggests actually is that there is a kind of a chad, but the myth of the chad is that one segment of guys are having all of the sex with all of the women. And it's not the case that there are themselves, there are women in relationships.
Again, this is where I just feel like I got to push back a little bit. I don't think that moderate content creators who are in this space believe that that the myth of the Chad is that the Chad gets all of the women. I understand that there's memes out there, and I'm not saying that there aren't some guys who say this. I'm just saying that if the Hans Larson study comes out on individualistic reproduction, the study he came out with back in April, where he talks about the top 10% of men on GSS are having 58% of all sexual interactions. 58% is not 100%. Nobody is saying that it's 100%. And so the reason why I kind of, again, I have a ton of respect for Rob, but the reason why I find this to be a little bit counterproductive is because people aren't saying that these chads are having sex with 100% of the women. What they are saying, though, is that a disproportionately high number of women are attracted to these chads, which is actually ruining their relationships and causing them to have unrealistic beliefs about what they can get in a relationship. There's downstream ramifications. Again, I'm going to use this example just so people can understand, because I do believe in assortative mating and hypergamy. The billionaire can sleep with several baristas. That's hypergamy. The barista knows she cannot settle down with the billionaire, so she settles with someone who's lower status than the billionaire. That's assortative mating. Both of those things can be true. A woman may have an assortative mating destination. She's a 7. She ends up marrying a guy who's a 7. But on the way to her assortative mating destination between the ages of, let's just say, 18 and 28, or, whatever, 20 and 30, on her journey through her assortative on the way to her assortative mating destination, which is over here, she goes through a hypergamy adventure, if you want to say. She's on her way to the continent of assortative mating, but on the way there, she makes a few trips to Hypergamy Island, if you guys want to catch my drift. That's one of the things I want to say. The second thing I want to say, and I'm kind of skipping ahead here, is that if you look at the numbers, the men who are the most promiscuous have sex with way more women than the other way around, according to the GSS, meaning the top 1% of men, it's 287 sexual partners. The top 1% of women, it's 100. And then when you drop down, it's like 85 for the 99th to the 95th percentile, it's 85 sexual partners for men, and it's like 40 for women. So it's like 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 where men are having sex in the top 10% more than women are, with the number of partners that they have. And I know some people are like, well, the men are lying up and the women are lying down, whatever. I don't know. But the thing is, if those numbers match up or they don't match up, that means that these men who are the most promiscuous are having sex with highly promiscuous women, moderately promiscuous women, and women who are not that promiscuous. And that's the point I'm trying to make. And I'd like for you to look at this whole scenario from the opposite standpoint. Let's just say you have a woman who is not promiscuous. She is a woman who is just but she's in her hypergamy stage, meaning she's still on social media. She still admires high status men. She's just not sleeping with them for whatever reason, but she still sees them. And she is going to eventually get to her assortative mating destination. She's a 7. She's going to end up with a guy who's around the same socioeconomic class, same level of looks, whatever. On her hypergamy journey, while she's there, she's going to have occasional trips to Hypergamy Island. And we'll call that the girls' trip to Vegas. We'll call that the trip to Cancun with the homegirls. We'll call that the bachelorette party. We'll call that the let's go out and get drunk after a breakup night. And in these moments where she's going to go to we'll call it Casual Sex Island, who is the man she's going to choose? Is she going to choose... Now, these are options. She could choose the man who does not have a lot of sexual partners, a moderate number of sexual partners, or a high number of sexual partners. And then the answer would be, from women, be like, ooh, gross. Men with high number of sexual partners, they're disgusting because they sleep with too many women. The problem is socio-sexual men do not present as socio-sexual. Socio-sexual men present as attractive. I'll give you an example. Derek Jeter, George Clooney, and Leonardo DiCaprio. They don't present as, Derek Jeter never came out and said, I've slept with lots of women, date me. What he did was, I'm rich and famous and good looking, and my ex-girlfriends are Scarlett Johansson, Mariah Carey, and Jessica Biel. That's what he did, and then women wanted to be with him. Women don't want to be with him because he is or is not sociosexual. Women want to be with him because he's attractive. So now this woman takes her adventure into Hypergamy Island, into Casual Sex Island, just once or twice a year, once or twice a summer, once or twice a decade. And when she does so, which one of these men is she going to choose? She's going to choose a more desirable man who is more likely to be sociosexual. Because men who are very attractive are just more likely to have more sexual partners because sex is available to them, and men tend to be more sociosexual with women. And this is my pushback on this idea, because the idea that is going to be fed to you here in just a second is that it's top 20% of most highly sexual men are only having sex with the top 20% of most sexual women, or for the most part they are. There's like a 90% overlap, and that just isn't true. If you've been out dating for any period of time, you know that this isn't true. And then when you match up the numbers of how promiscuous the top 10% of men are, there's just so many more partners than the top 10% of women. And so that's why I've been trying to make this argument here.
Relationships, there are women who are just uninterested in dating, and you kind of see the mirror image of this for men as well. And weirdly, this suggests that men and women are more alike than many think.
Yeah,
which is maybe a point to your book.
It's one of the key ideas in my book. Yeah, and I think that the average number of sexual partners that men have, if you exclude sex workers and like, is somewhat higher. But do think it's a very important point that, yeah, among the guys who are having sex with lots of women, generally having sex with the women who are having sex with lots of guys.
Okay, so that's the first thing I messaged Steve and I asked him about this. And the answer is this. And by the way, if there's a different answer, I'd love to see it. The reason why there's this belief that the most socio-sexual men have sex with the most socio-sexual women. And by the way, I agree that most of the time that probably is true. But the reason why we believe that is because the numbers happen to fit. There's no specific study. Like in a GSS survey, there's nothing when they survey the top 1% most promiscuous men. They don't say, hey, are all the women that you're sleeping with porn stars, escorts, women who've been with 100 men, virgins, women who are, low in sociosexuality? There's not any data on this. We just assume it's the case. We just assume that people who want to have sex meet up with other people who want to have sex and they all want to have sex. The part is that I think we're missing is that very desirable men may desire to have sex with women who have not been with a lot of men. Let me say that one more time. Very highly desirable men may choose to have sex with women who have not been with a lot of men. And these very highly desirable men have a lot of options with women, way more options than the lowly desirable men do. And so because of that, we get into a situation where these highly desirable men are having sex with women who are sociosexual, but they're also having sex with women who are moderately or sexually restrictive as well. And I think that nuance is being lost here. Honestly, I know I'm biased because I live in Las Vegas and I party in Los Angeles and I'm in Miami several times a year, in Dallas and Scottsdale and San Diego. And so the guys who are promiscuous there, they are like crazy, like dudes, they're just not like me. They put me and my friends to shame. Like these guys are crazy promiscuous. But when you see these guys, then you ask them, it's like, so every girl that you've been with is like also very, very promiscuous. And they're like, no, most of the time they're actually not. A lot of times these women are just squares. And very frequently these women, this is the other misconception, is that highly promiscuous men are only attracting women who want short-term relationships. This is absolutely not true. And if you ask some of these guys, if you just take a second, find a guy who knows male stripper, Lothario, freaking VIP host or whatever, and ask him, be like, these women that you sleep with, how often do these women want to be in a relationship with you? And it's a shockingly high number. And I'll tell you myself, living in Las Vegas for the last 15 years, I'd say the first 10, I was not interested in being in a relationship. And I was hosting bikini competitions, and I was doing all the things that you would see from a socio-sexual man, from the way I was purporting myself on social media. And almost every girl I dated wanted a long-term relationship with me. So that part I also think is a myth. And again, I'm an N of one. It's an anecdotal story. But this is what I've seen, is that there seems to be this, hey, the easy way to put this whole story to bed is just by saying highly promiscuous men and highly promiscuous women, they're the ones sleeping with each other. And that's where the overlap is coming. And I think it's a little bit too reductive to say that. And then in addition, what's the title of the video? Chads don't steal all the women. No one said Chads are stealing all the women, but they are getting a disproportionately high number of they're getting more desired by women.
And that's the sociosexual few, right?
Yeah. Sociosexual few.
Here we go. So this is the sociosexual few, and he's talking about Alex from Date Psych. And this is where I'm saying, like, I think it's a little bit more simplified. And if I ever got a chance to sit down and talk with Chris Williamson, I would ask Chris this, because Chris worked in nightlife. I know he did. And I would be interested in his take on this. Chris, do you really believe that the guys who worked with you in nightlife, who probably have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of notches on their belt, their body count, you think all the women just didn't want to settle down with him? All of them were promiscuous? And he's probably going to tell you, he's like, yeah, you're probably right. Not all of them. Maybe 50% of them, maybe 60% of them. What I'm going to tell you right now is, from what I'm listening, when I listen to Rob talk, it feels like Rob's trying to tell me 90% of them are, meaning 90% of the sexual activity that promiscuous men get is with promiscuous women. And I am not seeing the data line up to make that work.
Yeah, like the promiscuous 10% is the kind of meme version of it. Yeah. But I actually, so I think that tons of people at home and in the YouTube comment section are like,
there's Mackin right there. And so Mackin and I we got into a conversation on Instagram about this. He left some voice messages. Again, another super gracious dude. Even if I disagreed with something Mackin said, I do believe he's always being academically honest, which is why I was trying to shout this dude out every time I can. And the thing that Mackin was saying is, he was talking about other animals, other mammalian species, like that are super hypergamous, like just say an elephant, bull, seal, or a lion, a tiger. There's certain animals that are extremely polygynous, and he was talking about, well, that may work with other animals, and it probably works with humans to some extent. And then Mackin asked me to do something, and I'm going to show this to you guys later, that GSS hands Larson data that shows that the top 10% of men are having 58% of sexual interactions. Doesn't mean 58% of women. 58% of sexual interactions. He goes, I'd need to see the other side of it. Incredible shit. I had Hermes Agent use ChatGPT 5.6 Soul to create the opposite, to go into the GSS data and actually create the opposite pie chart, and I'll show it to you. And then I had Claude Code go and check it, and Claude Code agreed with it 100%. So we'll go into that in just a little bit.
I 100% think it's interesting and take it for granted that what you're saying is true. But where do you think the myth actually originates from, and what do you think explains the? Because it's not just necessarily the myth of the chat; it's also the illusion of the chat, where it's like people have this profound felt sense that they're being excluded from the mating market, where some other, some gorgeous guys are having tons of fun.
Yeah. Well, I think a part of it is the trend of dating apps. So, the swipe rates are very easy to measure. There's been a lot of...
I'm a little confused by that comment, because there are guys that are really good looking who are having tons of fun. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand the argument, because I think that's like, I mean, Ryan, you were with me at the party last night. It's pretty obvious that is the case. There are guys who are being left out. But anyway.
Research on this, and we mistakenly kind of overinterpret the findings of what people see on Tinder or on Hinge, which do show, on Tinder, it's something like 4% of the men get the vast majority of the swipes. And then much smaller numbers, or rather, larger numbers of women get liked versus men. Same thing on Hinge, that the top 10% of male users on Hinge get 60% of the likes. And so it's very easy to come away from that thinking like, oh, that's reality, that 10% of the guys are getting 60% of the female attention. There was that other finding about male attractiveness. You guys have probably seen this, that OkCupid data. That's kind of, it's a little outdated, but it also kind of makes sense in a way that people would come away from that thinking like, oh, most women are only attracted to that small section of fragment of guys, and men are much more even and kind of fair in their assessment of women. And then I think social media as well, that you're seeing guys like they take these very anomalous interactions where women suddenly lose interest in them or ghost them or something, and they tell this elaborate story, and it's very attention grabbing, and then those stories go viral. But the reason they go viral is because they're anomalous and atypical. The normal stories of, hey, like I met this girl and we really liked each other and now we're engaged, we're getting married. You post that, you'll get 17 likes. But if you post, I had this one night stand with this girl, but then she ghosted me, or like I'm
going to push back on Rob again. The number of men who meet an amazing woman and get engaged is far, far, far fewer than the amount of men who meet a woman and get ghosted. The amount of men who meet women and get ghosted is probably 100,000x more than the amount that end up getting engaged. You saying something, Ryan?
There was a little bit of an echo in the video last time. It goes in and out. Sometimes it's echoing and sometimes it's not. But it was
okay. That's fine. We'll keep going. It's fine.
She was leading me on the app, but then she greeted me, but then she didn't talk to me anymore. And you tell the story, it's like, oh, it's over, boys, or whatever. Like those are the stories that go viral. And then the other point I want to make about this is that this promiscuous 10%, this on the side of the women, that is a highly sought after group. And there is
again, I'm gonna push back on this a little bit. I think it's a sought after group, but I think them. So there's another thing. If you want to look at data on this, and this is, I learned this from Dr. Buss. In general, like in cultures all over the world, women do not care as much about a man's body count as the other way around. So the highly sought after men who are socio-sexual, who have a lot of partners, they have a lot of partners because they did something to make them desirous. Women who have a lot of sexual partners are not more desirous because they have a lot of sexual partners, just in general. Like, I'm not saying there aren't exceptions. I'm sure there's guys like, Lily Phillips' boyfriend or whatever who enjoys that kind of stuff. But for the most part, if you found Lily Phillips attractive, you found her attractive because you found her attractive, not because she's been with thousands of men. And so that's the difference. What I'm saying is our aversion as men to being with women who've been with a lot of men is stronger than women's aversion to being with men who've been with a lot of women. And I think the data backs that up, and I think all four of the people at that table would agree with that. And so that I think this is a little bit different, this idea that this top 10% most promiscuous women are super desirable. I think that their promiscuity actually works against them because, like I said before, some of these highly desirable men, because I'm going to correlate these two things. Men who are highly sociosexual have the ability to be sociosexual because they're desired. So these are highly desirable men. In general, they're highly desirable men. These highly desirable men don't necessarily want to sleep with women who've been with a lot of men. And so because they have more options to choose from, that's why I'm saying I don't agree with this idea that the highly desirable man who's sociosexual is only having sex with sociosexual women, moderately sexual women, and sexually restrictive women. I think he's having sex with all three. I don't think he's only having sex with sociosexual women.
It's a small fraction of women who are more promiscuous than other women. and the very attractive men have access to that group. And the unattractive men who see this, they get jealous and they want access to that small group of women.
Yeah, again, where I'm going to push back is like they do have access to those promiscuous women, but they also have access to the non-promiscuous women as well.
But they mistakenly think that that's all women. That all
Not
women.
realizing that there's a huge cohort of women that have had 0 or 1 partner.
Yeah, it's sort of this, this availability bias thing of like, well, I'm seeing all this stuff happening online, all the chatter about sex and chads and whatever, but you're not seeing this dark matter of women who aren't posting, who aren't on the apps, who are just like living their lives.
95% of people.
All right, real quick, let's go to one more here. I want you guys to check this out and tell me what you think here.
If there's this Porsche polygamy, like Scott Galloway calls it, going on at the moment, at least even if it's an online dating, even if it's not represented in who's getting laid and all the rest of it, but if there's some degree of big bucket of attention going towards small number of guys, historically, does that mean that monogamous marriage was basically affirmative action for men?
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there because I know he's trying to be funny with this. But remember what we just said before, the myth of the Chad. In order, there's 2 parts of this whole hypergamy, polygamy, Chad, alpha male, beta male argument. And we always talk about one side of it. Rollo's actually completely correct about this. We always talk about one side of it. The side we talk about generally is that there's these group of men who are getting a ton of attention and a ton of sex from women. And then we keep trying to downplay that, like, well, yeah, that's happening, but it's not really that big of a deal because those men are only having sex with highly promiscuous women. The part we keep missing, though, is that the floor for men is actually lower than the floor for women. And this is something you'll see this in A Billion Years of Sex Differences by Steve Stewart Williams, but you'll also see this in a book called Why Women Have Sex by David Buss and Cindy Meston, where they go over the floor for men is generally lower. The floor for the amount of children men have and the floor for the amount of sex men have is actually lower than it is for men. Far fewer women are virgins or die virgins than men do. And then you can understand why. And so because that happens, because we see that floor, then you start seeing that other issues. Because when he talks about affirmative action for men, so he's actually going to go into the concept of DEI as well. Well, you guys remember I did the whole debate or the reaction to the debate with Mark Manson, and Mark Manson kept talking about the reasons why men were falling behind, and he kept saying it was a globalized marketplace. And then I brought up Deborah Soh, I brought up Richard Reeves, I brought up Scott Galloway, and I brought up Steve Stewart Williams talking about DEI being a problem for men, because it is. DEI has been an overcorrection for men, according to these academics. And so if you look at the way DEI works, DEI only exists because DEI, the people, the purveyors of DEI, the algorithm of DEI only exists when there's an inequity, and that inequity only exists due to discrimination. Let me say that again. There's no DEI measure to make women as tall as men because nobody believes that women are shorter than men because of discrimination. There's no DEI measure to make women's arms as big as men's because nobody believes that women's arms are smaller than men's because of discrimination. Nobody's doing that. There's no DEI measure to do those things. But there is a DEI measure to try to get more women into STEM. Why is that? Because the belief is women are not going into STEM due to, wait for it, discrimination. Now, and you go to countries like Norway, shout out to Steve Stewart Williams one more time if you want to check out his book, A Billion Years of Sex Differences. He goes into egalitarian nations where women are encouraged to go into STEM. They go into STEM less. If women have the ability to go into STEM and go into STEM less, then that means that the reason they're not going into STEM is not because of discrimination. So in this case, we're talking about marriage being affirmative action for men. What is he talking about? That bottom third of men, because of encouraged monogamy through the caste system in India, encouraged monogamy through the Catholic Church, etc. That bottom third of men is now almost issued one wife through encouraged monogamy. And so now this is the affirmative action. What is the discrimination though? In this analogy, what is the discrimination men are experiencing? It's discrimination from women. Women are discriminating against low status men and discriminating for high status men. And so the counter to that is to do what? DEI or affirmative action. And in this case, the affirmative action in this analogy is for men, low status men, to at least get one wife because through arranged marriages or the church, or basically telling women very early on, you need to get married quickly, find a husband, have children. That encouragement then allows for lower status. Higher status men don't have trouble finding a wife. They find a wife, multiple girlfriends, cheat on them. Like high status men are not having this issue. It's low status men. And so I want to set up this analogy first. But the reason why I'm bringing up this analogy and why I'm contrasting these two videos is because in order for the myth of the Chad to not exist, then that means that the men at the bottom must be having some sex. But the whole reason that we're talking about this affirmative action for men is because the men at the bottom are not having sex. The whole reason, well, do you understand? It's almost like these two videos in and of themselves sort of contradict each other. Just listen to what he's saying here.
Going towards small number of guys. Historically, does that mean that monogamous marriage was basically affirmative action for men?
Yeah. I mean, so there was a recent paper about this where they suggested that marriage was affirmative action for
sexual redistribution.
Sexual redistribution of women. They also used the phrase DEI for men. By definition, most guys are not in the top 10% or top 20%, and so monogamous marriage was a way to sort of pair men up with women one-on-one, and it was a form of, I'll sometimes tongue-in-cheek call it sexual communism, sexual social for the deregulation of the dating marketplace. And now that we've kind of
late stage sexual
norm,
capitalism.
Now we're in we went through a phase, I think maybe arguably starting in the 1960s, we deregulated things, and now we're in the sort of the late stage. And I think now people for a while on the right, the kind of I don't know.
I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I've never been married, but if you start reducing the amount of marriage that happens, I like to call it encouraged monogamy through the church and through culture. If you reduce this encouraged monogamy, then do you get less discrimination or more discrimination? And if you got more discrimination, then what you should see is that these men at the bottom having less sex, fewer partners, and less likely to get married, and these men at the top having more sex. And that's exactly what you do see. This is my point. The second video makes my point for me, kind of against the first video.
Manosphere right have been calling for some kind of a return with that V thing. And then on the left, increasingly, I think women are becoming fed up, and they're sort of finding ways to reinvent. What's that phrase? Demisexual. This phrase, demisexual.
I'm only going to sleep with people that I'm emotionally connected to.
I'm not going to have sex with a stranger. It requires its own
special kind of
category.
And then there's
very
sapiosexual, that's being attracted to people that you're intellectually stimulated by. And then there's solo poly. Solo poly is my favorite. It's fucking hilarious.
Shout out to the solo polys out there.
Poly is just
these are men who are sluts.
One person sleeping around.
Okay, just a slut.
Yeah, or like just like a normal Lothario dude.
Man whore.
Yeah, exactly. Just man whoring about. But yeah, I wonder whether part of some of the pushback against reintroduce sexual norms, regulate the sort of mating marketplace from women that you do sometimes see online. I mean, it's pushing back against freedom, independence. It kind of harkens back to pre-1960s type of restrictive expectations, gender stereotypes, etc. But I wonder if another part of it is that there is this implicit understanding that it maybe benefits men more than it benefits women to have marriage norms because it redistributes.
I think that's kind of like, I understand what Chris is saying, but I think it's not hypothesis. I think it's obvious that is true. Like it did. I think, again, I want you to consider you run a nation state 1,500 or 2,000 years ago. Is it easier to control? Okay, number one, is the way to maximize for the most children in order to grow your population, because that is one of the strengths that you had. Like you had nations, they understood that in order for us to win wars and for us to grow our economy, we need more people. In order for us to get more people, what do we need to do? We actually need to pair men and women up together. Now, you could have one man impregnate hundreds of women in a polygynous society, but what happens is now you have a bunch of men out there that feel that become revolutionary. They're upset. These men, throughout history, before the advent of pornography and video games, most of the time when men were just going sexless their whole life, they would become violent. You would see this more violent societies because of that. So, and you don't want that. So what's the way to keep that from happening? Well, the way to keep that from happening is you get issued a wife, you guys ever seen The Handmaid's Tale? They're all arranged marriages. You get issued a wife, you get issued a wife, you get issued a wife. Now what happens is each one of these men is now having sex with these women. They know that the child is theirs to a high degree of certainty, not 100%, but a high degree of certainty. And now because of that, they're more likely to invest in this child. This child is more likely to thrive. in a two-parent household. And now as a society, me as a nation state, I've got two advantages. Look at this. I'm the ruler of a society. I'm a ruler of France in the fucking 1400s. I'm a ruler of England. I'm a ruler of Spain, whatever. I've got two massive advantages because the church has encouraged monogamy. Number one, I'm increasing my population, right? Number one, I'm putting a lot of children into two-family households. Good for me. And number two, are these men who all of a sudden have children back at home, are they more or less likely to be revolutionary? Are they more or less likely to rise up and attack me as the monarch if these men have children to feed at home? It's a lot easier to be, you see these guys, these people out there protesting in front of buildings. You notice a lot of them don't have 9-to-5 jobs. A lot of them probably don't have dependents. They have the freedom to go out there and be rabble rousers and paint their hair blue and paint signs. I don't have time to stand in front of City Hall and paint a sign. I don't, because I got a job. I've got people to take care of. And so now what have I done? I've taken this man, I put him into the nuclear family, and now he's less likely to revolt. I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing. I'm saying this is the reason why encouraged monogamy was such a powerful force for so many years. And then since the 1960s, we have the birth control pill, Title IX, we have DEI, third wave feminism, all these kind of things, which are causing women to make more money and go to school more and rise up socioeconomically. As we do these things, now that affirmative action or that DEI that came from encouraged monogamy is gone. And what you should see, if it is true discrimination, which my argument to you that it is discrimination, but it's not illegal discrimination. This discrimination is called parental investment hypothesis, first discussed by a man named Robert Trivers in the 1970s. His parental investment hypothesis is that of the two genders, the one that has the larger sex cell is the one, or the one who has more investment in parenting is the one who's more likely to be more selective. And in this case of Homo sapiens, that would be women. And so women's selectivity is the discrimination that the affirmative action or the DEI from encouraged monogamy is fighting. Is everyone following me on this? I know this was deep. This is I'm doing this Fridays. We're doing a master's levels class today. If you guys want to understand, this is a nuanced argument. This is an argument I feel like I could back up academically. I feel like if I was debating destiny or if I was going on modern wisdom, I feel like this is an argument I could back up academically. I feel like this is a reasonable argument I could have with other academics. I know if I was talking to Steve or if I was talking to David Buss, they would go back and forth with me on this argument. They wouldn't just cast it out outright. Okay. Some people probably will, like Jasmine Jafar would probably try to slap this out to the fifth row. But most people, I could at least have this discussion. I'm trying to have an academically backed, nuanced discussion with you guys. Let's keep going.
That if it's got to be one-to-one, then maybe I'm going to be less able to compete. Whereas if there's a little bit more free-flowingness in the casual sex marketplace, I may be able to show traits that aren't immediately obvious to a partner and be able to get somebody of a higher value. Whereas with guys, they're always going to struggle a little more because women are choosier.
I'm not sure, because I think if that were the case, then women wouldn't be so keen on the idea. And women often are very keen on the idea of having just one guy to themselves rather than having a guy who's going to have other women as well.
I think that's why it was.
So I think, so Steve, of course, with an incredibly astute, brilliant observation, but we are arguing two different things. And the two things that we're arguing is, one, women's desire to get married, and two, the culture's encouraged monogamy on men. Women's desire to get married, yes, but who do they want to get married to? They want to get married to the man of their dreams. Encouraged monogamy through the church often would pit men who are not the woman's man of their dreams with those women. Just think of like a farm town in the middle of Kansas in the 1850s. And then my family know the Hatfields and the McCoys, and my family's known your family, and let's hitch our daughter and our son up together and let's have a little hoedown, and then it's like a little arranged marriage that they do. It's like, you're gonna marry this boy because he's from a good family. That's what I'm thinking of, is like that. In that situation, that woman is not getting the man of her dreams. When women are fantasizing about marriage, they're fantasizing about Prince Charming. They're fantasizing about Christian Grey. That's who they're fantasizing about. So Steve is of course correct, but these are two different things we're talking about. When we're talking about affirmative action, marriage being a form of affirmative action, that's a situation where men are being pitted with women who may not be attracted to them. In the case of women desiring marriage, they desire marriage for men that they are very attracted to. So I think that's kind of where that gets lost. Right? Hey, we're going to get into these super chats as soon as we're done with this video.
puzzle to me about why it would be pushed back against to encourage monogamous norms from women, given that the benefits, at least traditionally, I'm trying to go through late stage everythingalism to work out where the culture has sort of come into land. Do you understand what I mean?
I do, yeah. I've seen a paper arguing that polygamy actually can be beneficial to women because women can choose to marry a high status guy who's already got a wife and a high status rich kind of guy rather than having to
it's like
either not be
being
married.
able to have 1,000
Totally, yeah.
wives.
Yeah, and it takes away that choice if somebody wants it. It means that the only choice is have no partner or have somebody further down the totem pole.
Yeah, I will have.
I mean, I love this. Like, what does Owen Cook say? He goes, "Women don't want to be in a harem, but they would rather be in a harem than date you." That's exactly what Steve is talking about right there.
Like this discussion is bordering on a really controversial debate in the evolutionary social sciences, which is whether humans are more like maximally constrained polygynists.
By the way, real quick, before we go on, I highly recommend you guys follow Mackin, you follow Rob, and you follow Steve, Stuart Williams. I highly recommend you follow these three guys on Twitter. Mackin is in, I believe he's in Melbourne. He's working on his PhD. Steve Stuart Williams is University of Nottingham, Malaysia. He has a PhD, very well established. The whole idea of the ceiling and floor, like mutual mate choice, that mutual mate choice thing that Dr. David Buss talks about, that was actually invented by Steve Stuart Williams. And then Rob Henderson also got a lot of great stuff. He's going to go over that study that I refer to all the time where women say this man's attractive and then men say that man looks like he can fight, and they compare the two and see which one of these two groups of men have more sexual partners. And it turns out the men who are more formidable have more sexual partners. And the women, when the women say the men are attractive, it has no correlation to them having more sexual partners. That study, which I absolutely love, that I heard that first from Rob Henderson. Please guys, do me a favor, make sure you follow all three of those guys on Twitter.
Where it's like we're naturally an animal where males mate with multiple females and accumulate wives, so to say, but cultural practices and cultural evolution has restrained us. And then the other perspective is that, in as much as we, like, obviously humans have a menu of mating systems, as a lot of evolutionary psychologists like to say, but in as much as we have a default state, it's pretty clearly monogamy. And you'll hear different Evo social scientists from different backgrounds argue for very different cases. I personally, and I think in reading Steve's work, he's actually been quite influential to me in this. I personally think that the monogamy case is stronger for a few reasons that I could speak of. And one of them actually is just that what we've said in this conversation is like, yeah, in theory, we've deregulated the market. So it's like, look, if an attractive man, honestly, even if a kind of good-looking man wants to just have infinite sexual partners, essentially, that is on the table for him, right? He can spend a lot of time doing that. But in the data, we're not really seeing people do that. Even though you're now as sexually permitted to do basically whatever you want with minimal judgment, most of what people do is still just do the boring thing and mate monogamously.
They fall in love, are largely interested in one other person for at least for a while. Yeah, I agree. I agree with my views on.
I agree with my views.
That's what you gave me, then I repeat them. And that's what.
Are we serial monogamists, though? I mean, I've seen some ethnographies, hunter-gatherers, where it's common to pair bond with one person, maybe have a child, maybe two children, and then the kind of the romantic feelings can dissipate, and then form a new relationship.
That is
with
very
someone
common.
else, kind of swinging to.
Yeah, very common. I've seen data as well. In those kind of societies, though, often like a small but like non-trivial number, 5% or so, of first marriages do last for life. So I think serial monogamy is probably more common. And I think we know that because most people fall in love more than once in their lifetimes. But it does sometimes happen. And we have a polygynous streak as well, I think. But yeah, so when the guardrails are off and there are no strict rules, you tend to find that most relationships are pair bonds and largely exclusive pair bonds. But you do also find that you have a small level of polygyny and a small level of, small level of full life mating. That's it.
Okay, so the thing I'm going to say here is, of course, what they're saying is true. The majority of the time, you do see people pair bond. That is how we've been throughout history. In comparison to other mammals, if you look at dogs, the male dogs, once the female has children, dog does nothing to help these children. Like, there's a lot of species of mammals. There's 5,000 species of mammal, and I believe 3 to 5% of them have any pair bonding whatsoever. So birds pair bond more likely than mammals. Humans, in the fact that they pair bond, are more like birds than they are like other mammals. Again, shout out once again to Steve Stuart Williams. I wish that whole interview was only 2 hours long. I wish it was longer because I want to hear more Steve. Honestly, I love Mackin and Rob. They're very interesting to listen to, but they're on camera a lot. Steve does not do as many interviews, and he's just a brilliant mind. And so that's really, really cool to check that out. But I wanted you guys to see that because I want to go over a little bit of the nuance, which is the idea. Remember the two different ideas that they were trying to express. In the first one, it is the myth of the Chad, which is this idea that there's these small group of men who are having incredible times, having a ton of fun, great sexual experiences, etc. And then there's a big group of men being left out. And I'm going to tell you, because I know a guy, that is way more true than it is not. Okay, the number one. So the counter to that is, because the data kind of backs that up as well, is, well, yes, those guys are having a lot of fun sexually, but they're having fun with only sexually promiscuous women. And then you match up the numbers, and it doesn't quite match up. It doesn't quite turn out to be where the numbers are the same. Let me see if I can actually pull up those numbers. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys something. So you guys, if you've ever seen the data that I've shown several times from, let me see, stop screen here. Let me see if I can pull this up. Share screen, window. Here we go. If you guys have seen before this data that I showed from the Hans Larson study, where he goes over the idea of how many sexual partners women have. Actually, let me move the chat. If you guys see, generally it showed that the top 10% of men had 58% of sexual encounters with women. And so what Mac and Murphy asked me to do, and I did this with Hermes agent using ChatGPT 5.6 Soul, is it went to the GSS data and made the exact same graph for women. And as you can see here, the top 99% of women have 106 sexual partners. And then the 95th to the 98th, the mean is 30. You guys see the mean is 30? And then you go to 90 through 94 and the mean is 16. Guys, look at this. I want to show you something here real quick. Watch this. This is the data of men compared to women. Ryan, I don't know if you're going to unmute yourself. What do you notice about this data?
I mean, the men is significantly larger than the women.
So if we, but let's take a look at this, right? We're going to count just the top 10%, right? So if we average out, and by the way, we're counting the same number of men as women in this GSS survey. I'm sure there's a little bit of a difference, but for the most part, it's the same. If the top 1% of men are at 287 and the top 1% of women are at 108, the top, when we go to 98 through 95, it's 85 for men and it's 30 for women. Do you guys see how we're kind of steadily at a 3-to-1 ratio here? And then we go the 90 to 94, it's 16 for women and it's 38 for men. Do you guys see the issue? In order for all those men to collect all those bodies, they have to go through more bodies than the women in the top 10 have available to give. Do you guys understand? Do you understand how I'm making this point? I'm not trying to be misogynistic. I'm not trying to be hateful or whatever. I'm trying to make the point that mathematically this doesn't work out. Now, there is a counter to this. I'm going to tell you what it is. The counter is, if you look at all that GSS data, you're going to find that the numbers don't match up. The amount of sexual partners that all these men have should equal a similar number to the amount of sexual partners that the women have. And I believe that they're off by 22% or something like that. And, and so for lack of a better term, the blue pill argument is the men are all lying up. The red pill argument is the women are all lying down, meaning the women are having way more sex than they're admitting to. And the blue pill argument is that the men at the top are lying. And the reality is, I will tell you, and this is mostly true, that when we talk about guys, once they get to like 400, 500, 600 sexual partners, they don't know that they had sex with 671 women. And a lot of them had sex with 300 or 400 women and just think that they've had sex with 700 and they don't know the difference. But I'll tell you where I do kind of push back on this. And you guys notice this number right here, 287. Now I'm gonna ask you guys something real quick. I'm going to ask you something real quick. Do you think that number is too high? For those of you guys who've worked in nightlife, you've maybe been around dudes who are male strippers, VIP hosts, guys who are, I would say, in the top 1% most sexually promiscuous. Do you think 287 is a high number or a low number for the top 1%? Can you guys put that in the chat? Do you think it's a high number for 287 or do you think it's a low number? What do you think? And by the way, this 100 number for women, do you think, we'll get to that in a second. Write that in the chat. Do you think 287 for the top 1% most promiscuous men is too high? It's a crazy high number for men in general, but is it a crazy high number for the top 1%? I'm seeing low number. Anybody else? What are you guys saying on Instagram? Is that a high number or a low number? What do you guys think? Let me see here. What are you guys saying on Twitter? Is that a high number or a low number that you think? Let me see. I'm seeing low number. Women divide their sexual part. Low. Okay, guys. We'll get a couple more in here. I think that's a crazy low number. I think 287 for the top 1% is a crazy low number. So if you want to ask me, like my gut reaction, who's lying more? I think women are actually lying about how many sexual partners they have. And additionally, I think when women do things like have threesomes or just give blowjobs, I don't think they count that as a sexual partner. And the CDC does. That's the difference. The GSS does. And so if you want to ask me my gut reaction, I think both sides are exaggerating, men to the high side, women to the low side. But the idea that the top 1% of men at 287 is some exaggeration, that doesn't feel like an exaggeration to me. That 287, I think if you're a VIP host and you do 5 summers in Las Vegas, to only have sex with 287 women, you got to kick women out of your house. You got to have a girlfriend for 2 years. 287 does not seem like a high number to me. I'm just going to be honest with you. Okay. I'm not talking about myself. I'm never talking about a personal story here. I'm just saying that number does not seem unrealistic to me at all. So that's why I'm saying that. So if we're talking about the two sides matching, but you guys understand my basic premise for this whole thing is, if we take this top 10% of men and this top 10% of women, these numbers don't match up, which is why I've said before, I believe the most promiscuous men are having sex with the promiscuous women, moderately promiscuous women, and not promiscuous women. I think they're actually having an array because these men are more desirable. In order to have sex with 287 women, I think you need to be desirable in one manner or another, whether that's you're a movie star, super rich, extremely charismatic, whatever. And I think when you present yourself as desirable, you don't present yourself as promiscuous. Like, I don't think that Derek Jeter went to Mariah Carey and was like, hey, I've been with thousands of women. I think he went to Mariah Carey and was like, I'm a good looking guy who plays shortstop for the Yankees. I think that's, what I'm saying is men who are highly socio-sexual present themselves as desirous. They don't present themselves as promiscuous. Does everybody understand? I hope I'm making some kind of sense here. I'm really trying to do a very, very foundational explanation of what my counter is, because I respect those guys. I just need to push back a little bit on the idea that it's only socio-sexual men having sex with socio-sexual women. Okay, we're gonna go keep this going. Let's go to the next one here.
You got some chats. You want to take care of that?
Oh yeah, but thank you for reminding me. That's why I got you on here, man. Real quick, super chat here. Hey, Mike, is surrogacy and plus single fatherhood the safest, most guaranteed way to have legal kids without the risk of the woman sabotaging everything? Surrogacy? No, I believe. How would that help? The surrogacy, I don't think would make any difference, because what I'm saying is the mother of the child does not. I'm sorry. The mother in a divorce proceeding does not have any more rights to the child because she gave birth to the child than if you had a surrogate. I believe that's the case. I don't know how anything else could be true there. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm saying here, Ryan? Like, if you get divorced, there used to be this thing called maternal presumption. James Sexton talks about this. And you would have maternal presumption would happen up until maybe 1983, because women were assumed to be the ones who were given. Women were the ones who were given primary custody the majority of the time up until 1983. Now the presumption is both parents need to co-parent, et cetera, whatever. And like I know in the state of Kentucky, the presumption is co-parenting now in certain places. And so I don't think that really makes sense. Surrogacy, I don't think that actually helps. Oh, wait. Bro, Ryan, I just realized I read the question wrong. He's saying surrogacy and single fatherhood, meaning like there's no woman in your life at all? If you're asking me, is it the safest? Yes. Would I want to do it? No. I want to raise a child. Even if I have a partner that I'm not in love with, if I have a partner that we just have a co-parenting relationship and we respect each other as people and we raise the children together, but we don't live together, I would still want to raise my children with a masculine and feminine figure in their life. I think I understand what he's asking, but he's talking about, is it the safest? That might be the safest. I don't know. I've never heard of this. I've never heard of men going out and specifically finding a surrogate to have a child with and then not having a female partner. I know women do this all the time, but this is not something I've seen men do very often. Thank you for the $4.99. $20, I believe this is Canadian, 20 Canadian dollars. Hey, Michael, if someone wants to level up his social media and show himself vetted among high-level peers, but also doesn't want to give away the network he spent years building, how can he balance both of those things? And here's a great question. And the answer is you can't. The answer is this. You become so indispensable in your network. So as my network grows and I have people on my podcast, there's nothing to stop people. If you see people follow me, comment on my Instagram, or come on my podcast, and they're part of my network, there's nothing to stop you from reaching out to them. I don't know why we ever think that would be the case. Also, every time I date a beautiful woman or have a beautiful woman come do one of my events, there's nothing to stop you from messaging her. The only reason, and I don't mind sharing my network with other people. What I have a problem with is somebody coming in and then just starts lying about me or talking shit about my back. That would be problematic. But that generally isn't a problem. And the reason why is because I bring value to the table. I'm a person who brings value to my friends. I'm constantly trying to solve problems for other people. So this idea of how can giving away the network, that is a scarcity mentality. You need to be completely free and completely open with giving away the network and never worry about giving away the network. You understand what I'm saying? You guys can, if somebody comes, like if you have a business and you have a ton of testimonials and someone else sees your testimonials and then tries to steal all of your clients, if they're able to steal your clients, what does that say about your business? Like you guys can you can see my testimonials. We show you the Instagrams of our testimonials. You guys are welcome to come after my testimonials. You're just not going to get any of them. The reason why is because my program works. If my program didn't work, we sure as hell wouldn't be showing you all of our testimonials. You can see their Instagram. You can see their face, their interview. Some of them give their first and last name. You can read the testimonials. You can also read the reviews on Trustpilot. You read the reviews, a lot of the guys are putting their first and last name. You guys you're my competitor, go for it. Try to reach out to these guys, but you're going to have a hard time, not because I'm afraid to share my network, share my leads, share my clients, or share the women I know in my life. It's because I know that I have enough value to where you can come and try to poach whoever you want and you're not taking anyone away from me. Because I also know that if you were able to poach someone from my life, whether that be a friend, someone in my network, a business associate, someone who sponsors my events, a woman I'm dating, etc., if you were able to poach that person, I have enough abundance in my life, I know I could find someone else. So I would highly recommend, Rob, you don't have this mentality. Go ahead and share your network and don't worry about it. Let's go with right here. Thank you also for the $9.99 here. Mo Life, Mo Prosperity. This guy's commented several times. Hey, Michael, sent you a DM on IG about how I can add value. Reach out to one of your head coaches, and he said he'd contact HR. My handle is the same as YouTube. Love the content, man. I appreciate that, man. Again, guys, if you want to come work at Men of Action, my recommendation is for you to go to moamentoring.com/jobs. We're always looking for setters. If you want to get a job as a setter, if you guys are a top tier closer, I'm going to say something that's going to come off very arrogant. And Ryan, if you want to unmute yourself and comment on this as well, I'm going to say something that's going to come off as very arrogant. If, hold on, let me see. Did that unmute you? Yeah, there you go. I'm going to say something that's going to come off as very arrogant. If you're a top tier closer somewhere else, you need to start as a setter for me. Because if you're a closer for me, you're in the top like 1,000th of 1% in the world. Our closers are better than anyone in the world. So these guys come to me and it's like, hey, Michael, I just took a Shelby SAP class and I want to be a closer for you. No, you got to do $2 million a quarter. I wouldn't even apply unless you've done that. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. There are no shortage of high ticket sales closers of good talent.
Keep talking. I'm getting a drink.
For us to pick from. And then also too, high ticket sales means something very specific. I admire a lot of folks who can sell things for a very high ticket quote price, whether it's real estate, cars, insurance, etc. But it's very different, when you're selling via Zoom for an online coaching program. So that means something very specific for us. So definitely, if you want to crawl, walk, run at MOA here, becoming a setter is definitely a better option, good strategy than trying to come as a closer.
And Ryan, if they want to become a setter, who is it they have a meeting with?
Yours truly. I do all the group interviews for all the setters and closers.
So all you guys who keep hitting me up all the time, Michael, I applied to be a setter and I haven't heard anything back. This is the guy. He's an E9 in the Marine Corps. He is going to be the one doing the interviews for you. So he's the guy you got to impress. And I'm telling you, I know a lot of you have a ton of self-confidence, and I love the fact that you guys have that confidence and you're coming out here. In order to be a closer for me, you don't need to be a G League player. You have to be an NBA first team all NBA player to come work for me. And the reason why, and I know some of you are saying, like, what is the reason? It's because of the extra benefits you get for working for me. Namely, you get to come to like all these bikini competitions. You're surrounded by beautiful women all the time whenever you hang out. We have incredible offsites. And you get me as the CEO. If you're a setter for me and you ask me to help you with a client, I jump on closer calls constantly. Most CEOs are not going to do that. I will do 40 closer calls a month. And so closing for me is significantly easier. So people stay with me for a very long time because of that. So for those of you, I know a ton of you guys want to work for us and you want to do so, just be ready to climb that hill. And for the rest of you, if you really want to work for us, there's another way to do so, which is you need to join Men of Action, go through the course, go through mastery, show expertise in mastery, and then we hire you as a coach. That's how a lot of these guys get hired. Tristan did that. Alvin did that. Ryan did that. What's his name? John Henley did that. Casey did that. Ashkan did that. These guys went through, they understood the core material, and then because they showed me mastery, we hired them as a coach. So for those of you guys who are interested in that, that's how that whole thing works. All right, let's do this real quick. All right, man, thank you. Let's get to, we got through all, no, one more super chat.
Yeah,
let's do
one
this
more.
real quick.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, love the content. I said a YouTube short on IG chat you may find interesting. Okay, Jose. Yeah, Jose has been sending one every time. Thank you guys for sending the chat here. We're gonna go back to the screen share, and then this is this one kind of pissed me off. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Let's do this real quick. Yeah. All right, you guys can see the screen. Let me turn this off. Okay, so the reason why I want to bring this up before we go on is Chris Williamson is a lot of things, but to call him a misogynist is, I mean, if he's a misogynist, what the fuck am I? Like, that is crazy. And the other thing is, in this video, you're going to see that my man Richard Reeves catches strays. No. You British people need to chill the fuck out, first off, okay? Let me explain something to you. When I make decisions and I don't know what to say, if I come to a decision matrix and I don't know how I'm going to react, there's kind of four people I look at and I say, how would they react? And these people, the main two are James Sexton and Richard Reeves. James Sexton and Richard Reeves, so when a guy talks shit about me online, I say, okay, would James Sexton and Richard Reeves, would they react to this? And if I say no, then I'm not going to react to it. I would also probably include Alex Hormozy and Chris Williamson. I would say, of those four people, how would they react to this criticism? And that's generally how I react. Richard Reeves is one of the most gracious human beings. He has one of my favorite sayings of all time. He's on Chris Williamson, and he goes, you have to believe that everyone comes from a good place. And it is. It's true. I do believe that. It's very hard when you've been hurt by a woman, fired at your job, rejected. It's hard to believe that everyone comes from a good place. It really is. But I agree with that. And listening to him talk gives me a lot of optimism. So coming after Richard Reeves and implying that man is a misogynist is slanderous, it's scandalous, it's anti-truth, and I have a big problem with it, which is why we are going to react to this video right now. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. Right there. And go.
This is podcaster Chris Williamson, Broken Britain. He's probably the most influential man in British culture you've never heard of. His toxic slurry of sexism reaches millions of impressionable young men. As well as his podcast, he has a YouTube channel and a newsletter, and the way he works across all three is the same. Instead of taking much of a stance on anything, Williamson tiptoes up to the line on controversial topics, from pronatal...
Again, so what does it mean, tiptoes on the line? He uses peer-reviewed data to back up what he's saying academically, and so her response to that, or her interpretation of that, is tiptoes up to the line.
Listen to the Manosphere before scurrying away to cower beneath the cover of...
Again, scurrying away. Who from the Manosphere? He doesn't... The closest thing to the Manosphere that Chris Williamson really has on his show is Orion Taraban and James Sexton. Other than that, he really doesn't have... I mean, maybe Connor Beaton. These are not heavy Manosphere content creators. So Chris Williamson, while he may... by default be a part of the Manosphere, the overarching idea of male self-improvement, Chris Williamson is not trying to be part of the Manosphere. And whenever he says the things that he's saying, notice that he backs it up with data. That's why I found this to be so ridiculous.
Plausible deniability. He largely leaves most of the actual opinions to his guests, but his episode titles leave little to the imagination. Recent classics include The Extreme Crisis of Young Women, a shocking turn in
the extreme crisis of young women. What if there is an extreme crisis with young women? So what she's saying is that, for instance, a low birth rate or women being suffering from mental health disorders, there's no crisis. This is all make believe. But this is the one. No. No. Listen to me right now. Richard, if you're out there, brother, I love you. You don't get to no. You can make whatever bullshit comment you want to make about Chris. Chris can handle himself. You trying to imply that Richard Reeves is a misogynist, you're just stupid. You are academically dishonest. You do not deserve, you don't deserve to have a media post. The idea, this man, Richard Reeves, has bent over backwards as a political progressive to do every single thing he can to try to bridge the gap between progressives who do not understand the crisis that's happening between men and women. He's done everything to make it as politically palpable as possible. This man has done everything. He has explained away the pay-wage gap in a way that is actually true. It's not controversial whatsoever. He uses a ton of data to back it up, but because it doesn't believe what this content creator is stating, therefore he's a misogynist. I don't appreciate this at all. This part is ridiculous.
A war on men and the uncomfortable science of sex differences.
Well, again, the uncomfortable, like not one shred of data in the Steve Stewart Williams video is not backed up by data. Steve, he puts so many data sources in his content. It is, here, I'll give you one right now. The whole belief, again, about DEI is there to do what? It is there to combat discrimination because there's an inequity. And he shows that when women want, in countries where they're encouraged to get into STEM fields, they don't get into STEM because women are not that interested in STEM fields. It means that women are not getting into STEM, not because of discrimination. Steve Stewart Williams pointing out something that is factual and objective, and yet this is obvious misogyny. Like, this is crazy. And by the way, before I go on, I just need to listen. I'm going to read.
Has podcast.
Hold on, I'm just going to read this right here. Hold on. Did we get to the end?
Chris Williamson, Broken Britain. He's probably the most influential man in British culture.
Okay, look, this is bewildering and slanderous. I'm not familiar with this outlet, but I'm surprised this was considered publishable journalism. The idea that modern wisdom is some kind of den of sexism is absurd on its face. I saw Chris speak live in Melbourne last year, and the audience was packed with women. Really, half the time I get recognized on the street, it's by women who've seen me on Chris Williamson's podcast. I'm especially confused that the editor considered it valid for the opinions of the writer to impugn Chris's guests' opinions to him as if they are his own, given how ideologically diverse they are. That's another terrific point. It's like the idea that because Chris has a diverse group of people on there, but here's where I'm going to even push back with Mackin, the ones he's showing, like Freya India and Steve Stewart Williams, they're not misogynist either. Richard Reeves, this man is, oh my God, this part is actually crazy. What I'm saying is, has Chris had people on? Like, my buddy Bilzerian, he's been on there. Bilzerian, you might say he's pushing the limit. You might say, well, I don't agree with Patrick Bet-David, whatever. The problem is the examples she's choosing, these are terrible examples if she's trying to express the idea of misogyny. I'm especially confused by the editor considered it valid for this opinion writer to impugn Chris's guests' opinions to him as if they are his own, given how ideologically diverse they are. Sorry, guys, my contacts are in. It's hard for me to read this right now. For instance, he has interviewed multiple gender studies scholars and prominent feminists. Why not impute those opinions to him instead? I have heard that this is the style of British tabloids, but I'm nevertheless really disappointed to see such an unfair low blow. I completely agree, man. And the Tin Man is a bunch of hilarious reel. I'm sorry, but this is a terrible take. Like, you can see they're just coming after him. And I'm just curious if they apparently read more at the paper's bio. Let me see what this is. Share this instead. I don't know what this publication is, but whatever it is, they've got a garbage publication because it's not popping up at all. I don't know. I'm gonna go back and check that out. But that is crazy to me that they were going after Chris Williamson like that. Okay, what just happened? All right, let me see here. Go back, go forward, and there we are. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Like, you guys, what you heard before, you even heard me disagree with some of the takes that some of the guys on the show were taking. But the idea to call him a misogynist is crazy to me, because what they're doing is they're moving the goalposts so far in one direction that it's like, okay, here's what you're doing. You're saying that Richard Reeves, who, by the way, is way more politically progressive than I am, I believe he was a Harris supporter. You're saying that Richard Reeves is a misogynist, which means what? Which means Richard Reeves even though he in general believes in progressive politics, he doesn't believe in them enough. So because he doesn't support progressive politics enough, therefore, by definition, he's a misogynist. This is crazy, bro. That was nuts to me. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out because how stupid that whole thing was. Okay, do you guys remember we were talking about this before, which is the concept of the hypergamy, most promiscuous top 10. So the idea is, we'll show it here in 1 second. We're going to get into Greta Devereaux, I think is her name. This is the girl, the controversy with clavicular, where she was criticizing all the women who would go on a stream with clavicular, and then she went on a stream with clavicular. This was great. This is super entertaining. We're going to go through these real quick, but I want to show you this. And this is one of the reasons you guys see on the screen here. You see this study that she's showing. This is that top 10% that Rob Henderson and Chris Williamson were just talking about before. So this is why I was talking about, this is why what I was mentioning before, why this could be a little bit irresponsible the way it's strawmanned, because now you have a content creator who's taking this completely out of context, and she's totally incorrect about what she's saying. And not only is she incorrect about what she's saying, we're also going to show what a hypocrite she is, because she's sitting there talking about women aren't hypergamous, and then she's saying, well, yeah, clavicular is one of the biggest streamers in the world. Of course I'm going to collaborate with him. I'm sorry, what? All right, let's just watch.
I have seen this graph online so much from guys who are in a victim mindset saying, oh, well, I'm not one of the top guys, so I'm never going to get girls. When in reality, dating is a lot more like this, okay?
Okay, so the idea that dating is like this, I don't care what social scientist you talk to, you have to be completely ignorant to believe that women who are fours are going after men who are four. No one thinks this. There's no data even the ones who say that it's not the myth of the Chad are still going to admit that women are more picky. Do you understand? Look at this chart on the right. In order for this chart on the right to be correct, that means that women have no more pickiness than men. Let me say that again, okay? I want everybody to understand what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say, I want to back this up academically. I don't want to sound crazy. In order for that chart on the right to exist, to be correct, that means that male selectivity and female selectivity must be equal. Would anyone like to debate this? In order for that chart on the right to be correct, male selectivity and female selectivity must be equal. According to Robert Trivers' parental investment hypothesis, we know that female selectivity is higher than males. So even in a vacuum, there's no way that chart on the right is correct. And this is one of the reasons why it's like, while Manosphere content may create incorrect or overused memes, the meme or the myth of the Chad, this idea of the top 10 or 20% socio-sexual people only having sex with each other has done the exact same thing and created this myth that she's expressing right now because she doesn't like how this makes women look.
We have the promiscuous 20%, the people who are having a lot of sex, the people who are in monogamous relationships, and then the people who aren't having sex, the celibate people, okay? I bet you that this stuff applies in the promiscuous 20%, okay? If you go out in nightlife, if you're on dating apps, you're pretty much surrounded by the promiscuous 20% because these people aren't really, they might be.
I just want to point this out. This is a woman who lives in Miami and is a streamer and goes on several different people's streams talking about the promiscuous 20%.
They're not really participating as much as the promiscuous 20%, okay? At the bottom, I would argue that there are just as many, if not more, women that are celibate as men, okay?
Okay, one more time. She would argue. I didn't take the time. I apologize, guys. Of course, I can just show you in 30 seconds. What am I talking about? I do have the numbers. What am I talking about? I was like, in 30 seconds, I could show you. I'm just going to show you. We just showed the screen a couple minutes ago. No, it's not. If you look at the bottom, there are fewer. If you look at the bottom 30-second percent, if you wanted to, hold on, actually, this is not the correct chart. This is the chart right here. If you look at this, the number of women right here that were 0 represented a lower number, meaning there were fewer women that were going without sex than men. A third of men, actually, you know what? This isn't not even the right chart. I apologize, guys. Hold on. The correct chart is the one that, the correct data is the one that Deborah So uses in her Sextinction book. And she goes over the last year, 33% of men and 20% of women go without sex. Let me say it again. 33% of men and 20% of women go without sex. She said, I would believe. Of course, she would have to say, I would believe, because the reality is she could have looked it up in 10 seconds.
I would argue that there are just as many, if not more, women that are celibate as men. Okay?
And you would lose that argument because the data is pretty clear on this. 33% of men and 20% of women go a year without sex. Sex is a veil to women. The idea that men are like, I don't have a problem if you think that this problem is exaggerated. That's fine. If you think that the expression of this problem is misogyny, that's your problem. But what I do have a problem with is this idea that there is a sexlessness problem and somehow men and women are experiencing the same thing. You are delusional. If you think like average women could rack up 500 body counts if they chose to do so because men would avail sex to them. The idea that men and women are going through the same thing, you are simply deluding yourself. And I understand you're a content creator. And at this point, I think that this Greta woman is literally just trying to troll all of us. I don't even think she believes this nonsense that she's saying. But the idea that, one more time, let's look at the chart. In order for this chart to be true, on the right, that means that male selectivity and female selectivity must be equal. We know scientifically that isn't true. We know that isn't true. So for this to be the case, we know that isn't true. And at the same time, what did we show before? We showed the men at the top. So she's showing, look up here at the top 20% on, you see at the top right, there's the 2 blue men and the 2 pink women. Right? So we already looked at that. Now let's go back to the thing here that we were just showing. If we look here, right here, if we look here, what do we see? The top, if we look at the top 10% of men and we add up the sexual partners, it's 3 times as much as women. It's 3 times as much as women. So if it's 3 times as much as women, and then we're talking about that these people are sharing partners up here at the top, it doesn't make any sense. These indicators right here, these 2 blue men are having sex with 3 times as many partners as these 2 pink women. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. These 2 blue men are having sex with 3 times as many women as these 2 pink partners are having with women. So this box doesn't make sense. Okay? So I'm trying to use simple math just to try to explain to you why. And part of the reason why I'm bringing this up is because that whole myth of the Chad thing that we just saw with Rob Henderson is feeding into her belief that this is true.
Men are celibate because they cannot get sex and they want sex, but women are celibate because of many reasons. They might be saving themselves till marriage. They might be religious or moral or something like that. They might be asexual or have a low sex drive, which is a lot more common with women than men, or they might have been traumatized by men or scared of men and they just don't want to deal with it anymore. Okay. So we have all these celibate people, and then we have the majority of people, that like normal people, who get into relationships.
One more time. The number of men under the age of 30 who are in relationships is about 30% of men and 60% of women. So remember, she goes over normal. In her mind, male selectivity and female selectivity are equal, and men who are 5s are ending up with women who are 5s. We know this isn't the case, and we know that men right now are far more likely to be single than women are. So this middle part of this monogamous sex fantasy that she has right here in the middle of the thing, this isn't real either. Again, the data would back this up. All she'd have to do is plug these numbers in to ChatGPT or Hermes or whatever, and they would tell her, no, what you're saying is a misrepresentation of the facts.
And yeah, these people might be on dating apps or in nightlife for short periods of time when they're single, but for the most part, they make up a small majority of that, right? And the guys who are here could be here, but there's some sort of like self-limiting belief that they have, right? Like they just want to be in like this victim mindset. They don't want to take care of themselves.
My God, she's saying that it's a victim. I've said this before, and I'm going to keep telling you guys this, and this is going to be the most controversial thing I say on any podcast, so I'm going to keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. If you want to learn to generate more attraction with women, you need to listen to men who generate more attraction with women, and you need to stop listening to women. It's not that women are lying to you. And by the way, I've actually met some women who give good advice. It's just in general, women give good advice and bad advice because of their own biases. But men who do really, really well with women only know success, and they can look back at what they did to get that success and have a far, far easier way of it describing to you how they got the success. Here's the other reason why it's problematic. When you ask a woman why she's attracted to a man, one of the problems that happens is the way she expresses why she's attracted to him has to make her look good. It has to make her look good. She's rarely going to say, well, you know, I saw he had a hot girlfriend and I wanted to steal him away from his girl. Women are rarely going to say that to you. But a man who has sex with a lot of women, when he expresses to you what worked, he's probably telling you the truth. And he's not that worried about him looking good or bad. And he's not worried about her looking good or bad. So the answer you're going to get is far, far, far closer to reality. I would love to debate any of you on this point. This is another situation where we have another female influencer who's just become a male dating coach. Thank you so much for trying to explain to us about victim mindsets while you sit there and make a just complete misinterpretation about hypergamy.
They don't want to make themselves like more attractive to women. Essentially, you don't have to be super attractive to find a girlfriend. You either just have to lower your standards or take better care of yourself, right? And then the promiscuous 20%, they're just like fucking everything. And that's when girls are more hypergamous, like when they go for more attractive guys. Because if you're just having sex, then like, does it matter? Like you're not owed sex. You're not owed to be in this bubble. Okay.
Let's listen to this last statement one more time. Very important. Very important. Listen to this last statement.
If you're just having sex, then like, and that's when girls are more hypergamous, like when they go for more attractive guys. Because if you're just having sex, then like, does it matter?
Right? That's when they're more hypergamous. You guys remember that? Just please make sure you listen to that. Oh, whoops. What? Wait. What is this? What's going on here?
These 18, 19, 20-year-old girls who are sleeping with Clav on stream are going to regret that so much later in life. They're publicly defaming themselves. They're publicly showing themselves getting disrespected.
Hold on, guys. I'm sorry. I just slipped on the hypocrisy. Whoops. Hold on. I need to clean up on aisle 3. I just slipped on the hypocrisy. I'm sorry, excuse me?
Oh, really?
Oh, wait, hold on. Don't look at me. I'm sitting here on clavicular stream. Yay, look at that. Hey, do you guys remember what she just said 20 seconds ago about these hypersexual women that just go after these dudes?
I'm not trying to slut shame or anything like that. It's just certain parts of your life are meant to be private, and if you Google your name and there's an 8-hour stream of you going... These 18.
Oh my God, bro. I cannot make this up. Are you kidding me? Bro? This is the craziest thing I've ever seen, that she went off and did that. And she's sitting there trying to tell us, ooh, hold on. All right, hold on. We're not done. Give me 1 second, guys. Hold on. Can you guys see the screen? Here we go. One more time.
I flew to Miami to stream with Clav over the weekend, and I have made hateful and critical videos of him in the past, as well as critical videos about the girls that go on his stream. Clav was all over my feed, along with other kind of stupid things about looks maxing, and based off of like how virality works, it's all the controversial things that he does, and it really made him look like an evil person. And he kind of became this public figure that everyone was criticizing, so I made videos criticizing him. At the end of the day, he is an extremely smart person, and we are very similar in our demeanors and our interests, to the point where people call me like female clavicular, and people will also recognize me in public as like the looks maxer girl. He's also one of the most known creators of the past year. Of course, I'm not gonna pass up an opportunity to stream with him. I did not fly out to party with him and be—
Guys, are you hearing this? This is the same woman who just told you that hypergamy isn't real. Do you like, yo, like I can't make this up. I can't write this anywhere. And this is, again, all due respect to when I was sitting there listening to, you know, Chris Williamson and Rob Henderson and Mac and Murphy and Steve Stewart Williams. This is when you have this idea that it's just these top 20% of people having sex with each other, you allow for this nonsense that's going on here. This woman who absolutely does not consider herself socio-sexual is acting socio-sexual, and we're going to sit here and pretend like that's not what's going on. This is madness. She literally said, well, he's one of the top— dude, guys, listen to this one more time. I can't even make this up.
that go on his stream. Clav was all over my feed, along with other kind of stupid things about looks maxing, and based off of like how virality works, it's all the controversial things that he does, and it really made him look like an evil person. And he kind of became this public figure that everyone was criticizing, so I made videos criticizing him. At the end of the day, he is an extremely smart person, and we are very similar in our demeanors and our interests, to the point where people call me like female clavicular, and people—
Do you guys is everybody seeing like the hypergamy that's actually happening? She doesn't even see it. She's gone from I don't like this guy to he's so popular that now people call me the female clavicular. according, if a feminist is watching this, this is Stockholm syndrome. She's identifying with her captor. Now, I don't think claviculars are captor. I like Clav. Braden's been nothing but cool to me, but the situation, do you not guys see the unbelievable level of hypocrisy that this woman is so crazy to me that she can just get away with saying this?
Also recognize me in public as like the looks maxer girl. He's also one of the most known creators of the past year. Of course, I'm not going to pass up an opportunity.
One more time. He is also hypergamy. He is also one of the most known creators of the past year. Of course, I'm not going to pass up an opportunity to collab with him.
To stream with him. I did not fly out to party with him and be one of the like personality-less party girls that he objectifies and does sexual things to.
Wait, hold on. Didn't she just say that her and Clav have more in common, and now she's saying she didn't go to Miami? By the way, I got that wrong. I thought she lived in Miami. She flew out to be on this stream. Okay. So now what I'm supposed to believe and understand here is that she went out there and she isn't like the other girls who get objectified by Clav, but she also calls herself the looks maxer girl and the female version of clavicular. So it's like clavicular's cool, but he still makes women look dumb, but I'm not dumb. Even though I went on his stream, I'm different, but I'm like clavicular. You guys see like the equations like running around in your head? You're trying to make it all make sense in her head. She's trying to do this. Oh my God, bro. How is this real? How is this real?
If you watch the streams, that is very, very apparent. Clippers got a moment when I was on the other side of the boat as Clav, and I was a little drunk, I was having fun, I was dancing, and they zoomed in on my—
Of course, one more time. Of course, I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to do a stream with Clav. He's one of the biggest streamers that there is. But I got on a boat with him, and I got a little bit drunk on the boat. And there was just this moment where I got drunk on the boat. Here's the issue I want to make, okay? Regardless of what you think about clavicular. She's an attractive woman. There's probably a lot of guys who want to date her. And those guys who want to date her, they can't get her on a boat. She isn't going to go drink with them. She's not going to talk to them. She's not going to give them any opportunity at all. Do you want to know why? Because she is hypergamous. She's exactly as hypergamous as she claims women aren't. And she shows it live. But even the only thing that exceeds her hypergamy is her hypocrisy. Bro, this is madness. I don't know how the story isn't bigger, like watching this go on right now.
my butt and use that clip to frame me as if I'm being sexual when I am not. And I honestly find this quite misogynistic because here I am, I have 4 other streams with this guy where we are talking about really smart things, and I'm asking—
Calling her hypocritical is us being misogynistic. Got it. Just want to make sure we got that.
Pretty good questions. We're having great conversations, and instead online I'm being framed to be this over-sexualized hypocrite. And going back to that video that I made—
Oh, by the way, let me explain something else real quick, because we're talking about hypergamy. She absolutely could have gone there and not slept with him. I don't know if she slept with him. My point is, she went there because of hypergamy. She doesn't understand that that's hypergamy. She went and gave clavicular more access to her in general, even if it wasn't sexual, because he was higher status. That is hypergamy. Do you get it? Are you catching on, guys? Are you following? There's one more time. Let's not use clavicular. Let's use a replacement level guy. A replacement level guy who might want to date her. She's not going on a boat with him. She's not getting drunk on his stream. She's doing it with Clav. If Clav, I'm going to probably talk to Braden later on this winter. I'll bump into him and I'm going to ask him about this. And he goes, yeah, I could have slept with her if I wanted to. He's probably going to tell me that. I don't know. I don't fucking know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. My point is, this whole idea, I don't care if she wasn't sexual with him. That is not the issue. The issue is she desired to be in his presence because of his status and notoriety. That is called hypergamy. How are we missing this point? How is she missing this point?
That people are calling me a hypocrite for. Going back to the caption on the video, if anything, I doubled down on that because I was really uncomfortable with what happened that night. It was a Sunday night. I didn't think it was going to escalate that far, nor did I even—
One more time. Did you guys not hear her say, me and Clav have a ton in common. I'm called the female looks maxer. Clavicular is they call me the female clavicular, and now I was on his boat and I feel uncomfortable about what happened. All of a sudden, we have all these things in common, and he's this great streamer, and of course I'm not going to turn down the opportunity to stream with him because he's a huge streamer. But when I went on his boat on that night, now I feel uncomfortable. Do you guys see? It's like somehow they're the hero and the victim at the same time. How do you do this? And then she makes that other video talking about these guys are victims, and that's the reason why they don't have a girlfriend. No, the only victim is the one in the pink blouse.
I realized that, like, I didn't think it was legal for stuff like that to happen in my presence. Like, I wasn't necessarily there. I went downstairs, but I didn't know that was, like, legal. But I did say some pretty gross things about the people who were involved in those activities after it happened, because I think it's disgusting and it's a lack of self-respect. The irony is I was saying, like, if you're in his presence and seen with a controversial figure, like, that's just a horrible idea. And I was in his presence, and that presence was twisted a lot. But I'm at least...
One more time. I think we all need this one, right? This is the good laugh for this is your good weekend laugh right now.
Did I even realize that, like, I didn't think it was legal for stuff like that to happen in my presence. Like, I wasn't necessarily there. I went downstairs, but I didn't know that was, like, legal. But I did say some pretty gross things about the people who were involved in those activities after it happened, because I think it's disgusting and it's a lack of self-respect. The irony is I was saying, like, if you're in his presence and seen with a controversial figure, like, that's just a horrible idea. And I was in his presence, and that presence was twisted a lot.
I mean, what else do I have to say? I'm sorry, I'm done. I don't even have a job anymore. She just did it for me.
I'm at least hoping that some other clips that we've had do go viral, so that people can see that that wasn't the case. And I also hope that you guys can watch all the other streams and get something valuable from it and realize that what people are commenting online just isn't the truth.
Okay, guys, I guess it wasn't the truth, man. I guess I feel really bad for her because she's been clearly misrepresented as far as what she's done. Oh, wait, do we have more clips? That's interesting. Let's take a look and see if there's anything else that she's posted. Oh, wait, what is this? Oh, hey, wait, what is the title? Hey, Ryan, can you read this? What is the title? I don't have my glasses on right now. We can't hear you at all. You remove yourself.
Women are not hypergamous.
Women are not hyper. Okay, good. I'm glad that she has a video titled "Women Are Not Hypergamous." It's very clear to me after watching these last few clips that this is something she's an expert in.
A lot of men nowadays are calling women hypergamous, which I think is quite funny because you clearly don't understand what girls are attracted to. Girls like guys who are confident.
No, hold on. We understand what women are attracted to. You know how we understand? Because we saw what caused you to fly out somewhere to do a stream with a guy that you were criticizing previously. So we understand what women are attracted to. We just watch your actions. That's all we do. If we want to know what women are attracted to, we just watch Greta's actions, and then we can see what they're attracted to.
Charismatic and have a little bit of swag. And it doesn't matter the proportions of your face. Girls aren't actually attracted to money. They will put up with somebody who they're not attracted to because that person has money. But that's not what you...
Again, they're putting up with a man who has money, but it's not hypergamy. No, even if you're putting up, like she's trying to say is like, well, women aren't hyper. Well, I mean, yes, women are dating and sleeping with these men who are high status, but it's not because they like them. And I'm like, what is it? If you're the guy who the women are having sex with, does it matter to you? So it's like, it's not hypergamous because in her heart, she doesn't like him. Got it. Okay.
Want. And this is why you see beautiful women in the South dating this like chopped middle class fraternity guy who doesn't have a job. It's because he has charisma and he's confident. A lot of men nowadays are...
Oh, man, I am so glad that she was there to explain that to me. One last before we go.
When women are rejected, they put so much time and effort into looking better and bettering themselves. But I feel like when men get rejected, they either complain about it or think that they have to go and make a bunch of money. Not to generalize, but that...
But you just generalized. And I'm going to make the opposite argument. I think when men get rejected, they join the military. When men get rejected, they go to the gym. When men get rejected, they become better human beings. When men get rejected, financially, when they get rejected, if something happens to me in my business, I go read more books. I try to improve myself as a human being, and I try to become more service. I try to become of more service to more people. That's what happened to me when I was rejected. I did join the military. I went to college. That's what I did when I was rejected throughout adolescence, junior high, high school, and college. When I did those things, I tried to better myself. I was not a victim. I think that's how most men deal with rejection. The idea that she made this statement and then finished it off with, I'm not here to generalize. I'm going to say something idiotic. Greta, if you'd like to do a debate with me. Yeah. If you'd like to debate me on any of these points, I promise you I'm not going to say a single mean thing about you. You guys notice I did not call her a B word, an H word, a 304. I did not call her any of those names. If you'd like to have a debate about these things and then we can bring up peer-reviewed data, it's not going to go super well for you. But if you'd like to do that, I'm open to that as well. Yeah, I mean, if you, I'm sure you can't wait to do that. One last thing I want to go over before we get over to some other stuff, and then we're gonna do the live streams here. Super chat. Sorry. First off, this was my conversation with Rob Henderson. By the way, shout out to Rob. Rob, huge fan of your work. Just had Steve Stewart Williams on. I had an academic question about this clip, and then the clip that you guys just saw. I agree with what you're saying to the point where the socio-sexual women who are having sex with the socio-sexual men. Hans Larsson's data from the paper Towards Individualistic Reproduction, etc. His graph shows the top 10% of men account for 58% of the total volume of encounters partnerships. I did not say the total 58% of women. Are you stating that 58% of women are socio-sexual? I keep hearing that people talk about this being a myth, and then I see this data. Could it be that women are selecting for a small group of men to have sex with, but aren't settling down with those men? Could it be that on their journey to their assortative mating destination, that they do have sex with high status men before they get to that destination? Would that be a way to answer both questions instead of just claiming that it's only socio-sexual women having sex with socio-sexual men? Again, really love your work. Love to hear your response. And then I show the graph. And here's the graph, guys, if you haven't seen this. If you guys look at this, you'll see, if you want to do the math, 99%, the top 1% of men have had sex with the 20% of women. Then we go to 95 through 98. That's now 44% of women in the top 5%. And then once we get to the top 10%, it is 58% of women. 20 plus 24 plus 14. This is the GSS, pooled waves from 2014 to 2024. There's nothing in here about dating apps. There's nothing in here about dating apps. Anyone who comes at me, anyone who comes at you and says, Michael Sartain is just quoting dating apps. They have really big bug eyes and they have this like almost autistic weird voice. If you hear somebody saying that Michael Sartain is lying to you and that this is about dating apps and he's got big, weird, like creepy bug eyes, like the type that like give women the ick, this is, you guys can see it says GSS pool data, this general social survey right here. And you guys see the 99th percentile for men is 287, 85. We went over these numbers previously. Okay, so I wanted to show that real quick. And then getting out of this, similar data for women, a small sliver of women at the top account for the majority of sexual partners. And we went over that. It's like, hey, Rob, thank you for responding. I just subscribed to your Substack. I agree with the small percentage of women also having a lot of sexual partners, but the top 20% of men have significantly more partners than the top 20% of women. There's no way that those two groups are only having sex with each other. Those men must also be having sex with women outside the top 20%. That's the point I was making. P.S. Your video about I said Kortsmeyer. It's actually wrong. Study going over male formidability versus female selection for attractiveness is one of the greatest things I've ever seen on the internet. And then it started a huge thing here. Michael, your chart posted doesn't show the number of sex partners for women. I'm sure this guy is probably like some anti-manosphere dude who thought that I wasn't going to be academically honest. So I showed him this, and you can see the top 10% for men is about 3 times the top 10% for women. So that's why I'm saying the numbers don't map out what he's saying. And I don't have a problem with it. Were you able to see that? Hold on. Yeah, hopefully I was showing that. Anyway, so you guys understand the point. I'm trying to make a nuanced point here. Let's go to the super chats real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we already had Jose on here. Next one right here. Let's go to Cristiano Ronaldo's first 3 kids were via surrogate. He raised them as single dad with his mom and sister. Average men can do the same in Latin America. Is that true? Could you look that up? Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't have his kids with his wife? He has a wife. Maybe that's right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just did not know that. But also, you guys are not Cristiano Ronaldo. I think, what's he making, 200 mil a year? Something like that? Next one is the crisis between men and women can be summed up by the bear question. The girl in Access Vegas honestly believed the bear was safer option. That delusion came from somewhere. That is correct. The idea that because she doesn't know what the man can do, she thinks she can scare a bear away. This is just utter and complete delusion. But there was another point, and actually we may show that. I may show that on a different video because that one got me so upset, and I just don't want to get riled up again. Katerina and I are friends, but I was explaining to her in that scenario, I was explaining to her, I was like, hey, if you all of a sudden, instead of having one bear or one man in the woods, what if it was 2 bears or 2 men? What if it was 10 bears or 10 men? And she goes, well, if there's 10 men, then the likelihood of me getting raped is actually increased. And it isn't. The reason why, as you increase the number of men, most men do not commit grape and SA. Most men do not commit SA and grape. I know there's this one study that says 1/3 of women have experienced SA or grape in their lifetime. No, that also includes stalking, number one. Number two, that study came from a university. It was like these were university girls. And number three, that doesn't mean that the majority, that means that the few men who do commit SA and grape, of the few men who do, those men get exposure to these women a third of these women throughout their lifetime. It doesn't mean 1/3 of the men in the world commit SA and grape. You've got the statistics wrong. That's number one. Number two, and by the way, I reject those statistics because stalking is terrible, but stalking and grape are 2 different things. They're very different, okay? So now, it's just the same thing. It's like saying assault and death are the same thing. They're not the same. They're both bad, but they're not the same thing. Now, let's go back to what I was saying before. She was, as we increase the number of men in the scenario, so it's now 10 bears versus 10 men, what's more dangerous? And the reality is, the more men you get, because most men do not commit SA and grape, the idea that she was like, well, I'd be standing there and one of the men would grape me and the other men would do nothing to stop them. And it is the most specious, ridiculous argument I've ever heard. She's like, men were so grapey that they had to pass laws in order to stop men from doing all the graping. And I'm like, who passed the laws? Who enforces the laws? Men. As you increase the number of men, that is what society is. It's an increased number of men. And because most men do not commit SA and grape, the likelihood of you getting graped decreases the more men that are in the scenario. That is true. Dude, this is the Jubilee argument I want to get to, where I just humiliate someone. This was a ridiculous, specious argument. No. The idea that me and my friends are going to sit there while some guy grapes a woman in front of us and she's screaming, we're just going to let him do this. This is not true. The fact that women even conceive this being true is just so absurd. Where does this get fed from? It gets fed from the social media algorithm telling them that the men are all dangerous. And these completely misunderstood statistics, 1/3 of women have experienced this. Therefore, that means 1/3 of men are this. No, it doesn't. It means that of the small group of men who do play outside the rules, women will encounter one of those men. 1/3 of women will encounter one of those men throughout their lifetime. Yes, maybe, if we include stalking. But if it's just SA and grape, that number is not 1/3. It is not 1/3, okay? Just really disappointing, honestly. I just got to be honest with you, because that was clearly not accurate. All right, let me see here. Okay, next question. I think your credibility goes out the window when you tell girls to stop gaining clout from famous streamers like Clav, and then you're on your stream shaking your pancake ass for millions of people watching. What do you? Oh yeah, you're talking about her. Oh, by the way, appreciate the $20. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And she even says, hey, I know how this looks ironic because I said that you shouldn't be on a stream with Clav, and then I was on a stream with Clav. And the thing is, the obvious answer, the simple answer is the clout always wins. And that's what happened here. But the fact that the clout always wins is what? The fact that women will choose to give men opportunities who have more clout is called hypergamy. What are we doing, guys? Like, why are we still having this discussion? Now, I want to make one clear distinction here real quick, because I know I just had a discussion with Mac and Murphy about this. I'm going to go ahead and bastardize the word from this point forward, and I'm not going to make any more apologies for it because it's getting really confusing to have these discussions. I understand that technically when we're talking about hypergamy, we're talking about a caste system in India. I understand that. If we want to take the word at its root, I believe these are Greek words, hyper and gamy. This means women up. Hyper more, gamy women. Women going up, women going up. So women choosing taller men, richer men, men with more status, men who are funnier, better men. Women choosing better men is hypergamy. From this point forward, Webster's, if you guys want to come after me, that is the new definition of the word. I understand it's not the original definition of the word, but that original definition also had a context to it. But if you actually look at the word in Greek, it means women up. I'm going to take the actual literal translation from Greek, and I'm going to say women wanting to leave their man for a better man is in any context whatsoever, and being more selective of men in any context whatsoever, I'm going to call that hypergamy. The idea that hypergamy is only a monetary thing, the problem is this is not a helpful conversation, because if we just say hypergamy is this one thing or this other thing, we can't have the conversation anymore. We have to stop this thing down and go into parental investment hypothesis or whatever. No, it's a Greek word. It has two parts to it, hyper and gamy. Look it up for yourself. From this point forward, if anyone wants to argue with you, send them to this video. The word has now changed meaning. The word means women choosing higher. That's it. Period. Okay. Cool. We got to all those. Let's get to a couple more here. Okay. We did all the Greta and Clav. Okay. Here we go. Let's check out a couple more of these videos. Let's see some more of this incredibly data-backed science that these people have. So as you guys have known, I shout this dude out all the time. His name is Elia. He's a content creator. This guy's brilliant. Highly recommend you guys check him out. Please give Elia a follow if you get a chance. Again, I want to reward anyone who's trying to be academically honest, and I believe Elia is. So shout out to this guy. Check out this video.
Acting as if hypergamy isn't a social construct tells me everything I need to know about men and the men who use these terms. But here's the thing about all this. Women are not hypergamous. There is little to no data to support the idea that women are hypergamous. Even socially, I'm saying, from a social concept, not scientifically.
Okay, so let's go over this before Elia gets to this. Number one, Dr. David Buss's 37 culture study, which goes over in every single culture, women want men who make more money than men want women. Women want men to make about 100% more money than men need women to make. Okay, hypergamy. He said there is no studies. The David Buss study covered 37 different cultures, and it was over 10,000 people. You're wrong on the first one. Second, we go over any study like the Hans Larson study, which shows that women are selecting for a small group of men. We go over the study that goes over attractiveness. We go over studies which go over, there's numerous studies we can go over that show hypergamy, that shows female selectivity. We go over the base study, which is Robert Triver's parental investment hypothesis, which shows that women are more selective than men. In every one of these cases, this is science that shows that hypergamy does exist. What he's saying is it's not even a lie. It's anti-truth. It's scandalous what he's saying. This is completely absurd. So let's listen to Elia's response to this, because I don't even want to do the work for this. Elia's going to do it for me.
In this video, this guy is talking about hypergamy. It's a pretty long video and he makes a lot of different claims. He says hypergamy is entirely a social construct, that money, status, and attractiveness have nothing to do with biology, that men invented the concept to manipulate women, and that they use it to justify transactional relationships and objectifying women. Some of those criticisms are relatively fair, while others are simply false. But I want to concentrate on his central claim. Women are not hypergamous. There's little to no data to support the idea that women are hypergamous. So let's check it. By the way, in his comments, he bet 1,000, I suppose, dollars to prove him wrong. You guys decide by the end of the video if I won that $1,000. First, what does hypergamy actually mean? Traditionally, it refers to partnering upward in social or economic status. Online, however, the term is often used more broadly for women having also physical preferences.
Yes. Okay. So that's the broader definition of it. I'm going to bastardize that. I'm going to take it for myself. We're going to take it. Because the reason why is not to be selfish here, or it's not to be non-academic. It's because when we start bogging ourselves down, we all know what the fucking word means. We all know what it means. Just like when you watch a pass interference call in the NFL, you kind of know when it's pass interference. We know when we're talking about hypergamy, we mean women leveling up. This idea, well, no, Michael, it's only leveling up when it comes to social caste or money. Dude, stop with your nerd shit. Pick a different word. We've taken this word. You missed your parking spot. We've taken your parking spot. This is what hypergamy means from this point going forward. If you want to have an argument with me about well, that's not technically what it means. What you're doing is just throwing a monkey wrench in a conversation that needs to be had, and you're just slowing it down for no reason because everyone knows what this word means. Okay? I'm sorry. It's not academically dishonest because what I told you before, if we take the actual Greek word that it's translated from, it does mean what I'm saying. The broader definition is the correct definition.
For example, men who are taller than them. So it doesn't mean every woman wants a billionaire, or that every woman always dates upwards on every single characteristic. It describes average preferences and patterns. But is there little to no data showing women place greater importance on a partner's resources or status? No, there is actually plenty. A large 2020 study examined 14,399 people across 45 countries. It found that women, more than men, preferred partners who were older and had stronger financial prospects. Men, more than women, prioritize youth and physical attractiveness. You could argue that people do not always behave exactly as they answer in surveys. Fair enough. So another study analyzed the actual behavior of more than 1.8 million online daters across 24 countries. Higher education and income increased the romantic attention received by both men and women.
Okay, real quick. If this is the case, all this guy has to do to counteract Elia is to show studies that show a different correlation. Because his only counter is like, well, you didn't prove anything because these are corollary studies, but they don't show causation. Well, then show the opposite correlation. You're the one who made the argument. You're the one who bet the $1,000. And he's not going to be able to because there's no data that shows this. And I don't know if Elia is going to talk about this one, but the most damning thing to his assertion is the Dr. David Best 37 culture study. And I forgot to mention this part. And that is women prefer men who have more ability to acquire resources. Even Yanomamo Indians in Venezuela, people who live in Norway, people who live in Mexico, people who live in Thailand, people who live all over the world, people who do not have access to radio, television, or film, the women were still more interested in men who had more ability to procure resources, meaning it cannot be cultural. So you saying that this is always culture, that hypergamy is always a cultural thing, that is academically dishonest. And honestly, it's ignorant. You're just saying things to pan. I don't even think you believe this at this point because there's no data to support what you're saying.
But the increase was almost 2.5 times stronger for men. And this difference appeared in every country included in the study.
Yes.
Then there was an online dating field experiment in China. Researchers created profiles with different stated incomes. Men visited female profiles at roughly similar rates regardless of the women's income. Women, however, visited higher income male profiles more often at every income level. The interest even jumped when the men's income became higher than the woman's own income. The highest income male profiles received around 10 times as many visits as the lowest income ones. And it is not only about money or social status. Study after study has found what researchers call the male.
Men acting as if hypergamy isn't a social construct tells me everything I need to know about men.
Okay, so that was the first one. Hold on, did we get through the whole thing? Let's there's a second one. Let's just go to the second one here because I think he responds to it. And I'm actually kind of interested to see how this goes. Let me see here.
What does hypergamy actually mean? Traditionally, it refers to partnering upward in social or economic status. Online, however, the term is often used more broadly for women having also physical preferences. For example, men who are taller than them. But is there little to no data showing women place greater importance on a partner's resources or status? No.
Hypergamy is not about preferences. Hypergamy is about a fact. It is about what is actually happening, right? So like I said in my initial video, there is no data to support the idea that women are hypergamous, aka marrying men of higher socioeconomic statuses, marrying men who are...
Again, so now what he's done is now he has, because he's lost the bet, obviously, he's completely incorrect. He now has to change the definition of hypergamy. Hypergamy does have to do with preferences. It actually does have to do with preferences, but he doesn't understand that. Women desiring to marry up. Hyperandrousness would be like a bunch of men saying, I want to marry Megan Fox. Well, most men are not going to marry Megan Fox. Hypergamy can deal with preferences. The word that he's getting incorrect is it's called assortative mating that he's trying to make an example of. He's trying to say assortative mating, but he's using the word hypergamy because this guy honestly doesn't know what he's talking about.
More attractive than them, marrying men who are more educated than them, and marrying men who make more money than them.
Man, I freaking love it. The classic moving of the goalposts. So now, suddenly, hypergamy is only about marriage and actual outcomes, nothing about preferences, and you are acting as if that is what you said in your initial video? There's just one little problem, man. Your original video is still online. Everyone can go and check what you actually said. So let's look at the definition you gave.
So the concept of hypergamy is women, and it's mainly about women, because anybody can be hypergamous, right? Any gender can be, but it's mainly about women. They want us to believe these men.
No, again, kind of showing his ignorance. Men cannot be hypergamous. Men are hyperandrous. Is one of the things, guys. Let's do it one more time. Ready? Gammy, women. Andry, men. Androstened, androgen, men. Gammy, women. Hyperandry, meaning men trying to level up. Hypergamy, women trying to level up. Anyone can be hypergamous. No, bro, take a second. Take your argument, put it into Claude, ChatGPT, Grok, Hermes, OpenClaw. Put your argument in there. Try to steel man your own argument. You don't know what you're talking about. You just keep showing more and more ignorance. I made the disclaimer. I said the way I'm using hypergamy is different than the textbook definition. But the reason why I'm allowed to bastardize it is, number one, is because that's how everyone's using it. And number two, if you actually go look at the root word in Greek, what I'm saying is correct. So that's why I'm saying this. This guy right here is getting things completely wrong.
They want us to believe that women want to get with men who make more money than them, are more attractive than them, have a higher social status than
Again, yes, that's nail in the coffin. It's done. Excuse me, sir. You owe Elia $1,000. He just said women want to get with men who make more money than them. And then later on says that this has nothing to do with preferences.
All these things, right?
That is your definition, man. Women want to get with men who make more money, are more attractive, and have higher social status. Want to get with. That is a preference. I was reacting to your video, so I used the definition that you personally gave in your video. That is how debating works. And now that I presented evidence showing that women, on average, place greater importance on financial prospects and show preferences for taller and higher status men, suddenly you say, no, that is not what I meant. Hypergamy is not about preferences. It's only about who women actually marry. You never said that in the original video. I actually counted how many times you used the words marry, marriage, or wedding. Take a guess, guys. 0. Not even once. You use the word unmarried once when discussing how much money a particular group earns, but that is completely irrelevant here. So do not sit there now and pretend that marriage was always your argument. It was not. You are rewriting your own claim after being presented with evidence against it. Some of you may say, come on, man, go easy on him. And honestly, I probably would with most people, but not with this guy. It turns out he made a full 24-minute reaction video about me on YouTube around a month ago. Nothing wrong with reaction videos, by the way. I make them myself. But in that video, he directly insulted not only me, but also you guys, my audience.
What a disingenuous dipshit. Sir, you're so stupid. I don't even know who could listen to this. And I didn't read the comments. I'm sure the men in there are like, you're right, brother.
What happened, man? Why only upload to YouTube? Why not on TikTok as well? Don't worry, I plan to cover that video separately. And guys, I need you on my YouTube channel as well. Go subscribe, because apparently that is where people are making 24-minute videos about us. And we need to be there to catch those public offenders. Also, who the hell did you tag in your response? That guy is supposed to be me? Some people may say, oh, he just tagged the wrong.
Hey, yo, public offender. Yo, let me help you out here, buddy. The only dipshit is you. If you want to come debate me on YouTube, you're more than welcome to. You calling him a dipshit, I'm calling you a dipshit. You listen, brother. You want this fight? You want the bull? You want to fuck with the bull? You get the horns, buddy. I'm calling you out, public offender, because I have more. This is my wheelhouse. Elia deals with a lot of these different things. The idea of hypergamy. This is the sweet spot on the baseball bat for me. So I'm going to ask you, dipshit, if you want to come on YouTube and have a debate with me. How about we do this? We can do it with, Elia can be there. You can do one with Elia. There's no way you're going to do one with Elia because he'll cook you as well. But you want to call somebody a dipshit? It's you, buddy. That's it. Man, bro, that shit makes me so angry. He's absolutely right. Bro, you make a video on YouTube and then you run from him like a bitch because that's what you are.
Wrong person, it happens. Yes, mistakes happen. But with this guy,
somebody send this to him. Somebody send this to this dude. Somebody send this to this dude.
Is a pattern. No attention to detail, no consistency, and no accountability. You cannot tag the correct person. You cannot keep your definition consistent. You insult people and their audiences and then act as if you are having some honest intellectual discussion. The dishonesty, the hypocrisy, the two-faced behavior. You wanted my attention, man? Now you have it. And I'm not done with you yet.
Let's go. Hey, everybody, real quick, right here. You see Elia's Menace Vice? All of you need to be following this dude. Listen. I don't follow people I agree with. I follow people who I believe are academically honest, and that's why I follow this guy. Follow Elia Men Advice. Please do that, man. Dude's got a lot of really great stuff. Let's go to this next video here. This is terrific, man. Actually, we may end it right here. Ryan, you're gonna like this one. Ready? The number one strategy that men use in order to get with women who don't want to sleep with them. What do you think it is, Ryan? Put it in the chat, guys. The number one strategy that men use in order to get women to sleep with them who don't want to sleep with them. What do you guys think it is? Number one strategy. Put it in the chat. What do you guys think? Ryan, come on. Give me an idea. What do you think?
It's social proof.
Social proof, that's one thing. Yeah. I think that's really, really advanced. I think somebody in MOA would do that, but what do you think most guys do? Think of Chris GQ Perry. Think of Will Hitchens. Think of Derek Jackson, and think of what's his name? Think of Harry Sisson. Think of what do these guys? In order to get the approval of women, what do these guys do?
They need to tell her compliments. I don't know.
No. Let's go. This is such a great video. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry if you guys feel called out after this one, but if the shoe fits.
In a recent study, Researchers found that the #1 strategy men use to get sex from a woman who hasn't consented is telling her whatever she wanted to hear. This was
ding, 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 ding. I mean, can somebody just tag Chris GQ Perry in that video? Somebody just tag him. Tag all these guys who talk all this shit about me. Just dig. That is what it is. These guys, I love this. I love that there's now research to back this up. I made the female pandering video. This is what female pandering does. Whenever you guys see the female panderer, here's why he's doing this. He didn't get selected by women. He wasn't cool in junior high or high school. And so in order to make up for it, because he's not getting sex from women and he's not getting included by women, then he sits there and he tells women whatever they want to hear. Think about Therapy Jeff. Therapy Jeff made a bunch of pandering videos that were non-scientific. They were absurd. And then what happened with Therapy Jeff, what happened next is that he ends up with sexual misconduct. Like he gets, accused of sexual misconduct. Why is that? Because Jeff doesn't know how to talk to women. So now women come to him and they're like, oh, Jeff, we love you. You agree with everything we're saying. He's like, oh my God, this woman's near me. I'm going to go for the move. But he doesn't know how to go for the move because he doesn't know how to talk to women. So what his strategy to get to women who don't agree, like I'll be honest with you, a lot of the women that I've been with, I disagree with them. We usually on my dinner dates, if I go on a dinner date, I start, bro, listen, Ryan, tell him if I'm lying. When I go to dinner dates or when we go on big group dates or whatever, or group outings, I start huge arguments with people. Not arguments, more like debates, like Socratic debates. Nobody's insulting each other. Nobody's yelling at each other. Watch me on Access Vegas. Several times, most of the women that I've ended up dating, we had this massive argument about some fundamental or philosophical idea. And the reason why, and we didn't make it personal, is because I wanted them to know very quickly that I'm not afraid to honestly express my opinion to them. And if they don't like it, that's fine. They can go choose someone else. There's always some panderer who's out there for them. And if you guys have ever seen this before, like, it's so crazy. These guys who do this, by the way, if you were to actually probably look at the studies, and you were say, how often do these men tell women what they want to hear in order to get sex? And then a second study saying, how often do those men then get the sex? You're going to find it's a very, very low number of men who actually get the sex because you're pandering to what she wants.
Used by 78% of the sample. This was a method used above asking repeatedly, above using alcohol, above physical force. The most common tool for overriding a woman's no thank
is to pander to her.
you is a performance of whatever she needed to believe. So eventually she said yes to something. The problem is that that something didn't exist to begin with. He manufactured the information her consent was built on. This was built on his...
Goes, look at this. Consent, freely given, revocable, informed, enthusiastic, specific. If they lie, the consent is not informed. So listen, guys. Even if you tell a woman what she wants to hear and you have sex with her, even if she has sex with you, after you tell her and she has enthusiastic consent with you, it's still grape. Why? Because you sat there and pretended to agree with her. So do you guys understand? Everybody out there, listen to me. This is what that comment just said. A woman comes to you and she goes, hey, you know what? What's your sign? She goes, oh, I'm a Sagittarius. What are you? Oh, I'm a Virgo. Oh, that's crazy. That's kind of Virgo energy you're giving. Meanwhile, the guy who said the Virgo thing, he doesn't believe in astrology at all. Therefore, he's committed SA. That's so great. This is so incredible. Unless what you could do as a woman is be more discerning and start recognizing when men are just telling you whatever you want to hear in order to get in your pants. You could do that as well, but in order to do that, you would have to actually have a grip on objective reality.
A high pressure interest, his intentions, her overriding her safety, and then she made a sovereign
Most males don't see this as predatory behavior.
decision, or so she thought.
Again, so what are these women saying? Guys, what are these women saying? They're like, yes, this might work on me, just agreeing with me. Men will tell you whatever you want to hear. Oh my God, guys, it's so wild. It's so wild. Cannot understand why people are so worked up about voice note guy.
With evidence that he was fabricating the whole time. Her judgment was intact and it worked, but the problem is that it was handed a counterfeit. The fourth most common strategy by 44% of the sample was that men had a female friend around to make the woman feel safe and convince her. 38% of them had a female friend bring her to him. So the counterfeits are now coming with witnesses.
Hold on, time out. Those are two different things. Telling a woman what she wants to hear is legitimately being dishonest. if you don't agree with what she's saying. If you agree with her, then that's not being dishonest. But like, for instance, if I was talking to a woman and she's like, I like the color orange, and I happen to also like the color orange, I'm not lying, but I might be telling her what he wants to hear. Me having a female friend, like, by the way, that's all we do in the Men of Action program. Me having a female friend, that's my actual friend. If my friend, like if Kindly Myers and CJ Sparks, if they vouch for me, that's not being dishonest. Now you're stepping way outside of bounds here. There's no reason, if I have women vouching for me, that's not being dishonest. That's not predatory. That's ridiculous.
The study asked these men, how did they know she wasn't consenting? And these men had their answers ready. She made excuses. She said no. She moved away from him. And these men knew. They read their refusals fluently, and every strategy on that list began after her no anyway. So when she can't
this is selection bias. You understand the whole point of the survey was to see what men would do after they were refused for sex. Like, this is kind of, now she's being specious because she's acting like this is what all men do. No, the survey was about men who were rejected for sex initially.
Explain afterward why she didn't see it coming. That's because every piece of the evidence she checked was planted and counterfeit to begin with. Her yes was real. Everything it was based on was forged. So part 3 of the series is what happened to these men afterward.
Yeah, so she is completely right about men telling women whatever that those women want to hear in order to get with them. But the idea of having women around, yes, that's a very effective strategy. But in order for you to do that, those other women have to choose you. So it's an honest signal. Having beautiful women around you in your life and that causing other women to be attracted to you is an honest signal. That's how I met my girlfriends. And so if they became my girlfriends, if they moved in with me, we fell in love together. That means the potential for us loving together each other was there. That's not going to happen if I'm just lying to her all the time and telling her whatever she wants to hear. I'm not, again, there's the difference between Chris GQ Perry and Therapy Jeff and all these other panders and then men who actually like are willing to tell. This is another idea. Like, if it doesn't work out, ladies, if it doesn't work out between you and a dude, that doesn't mean everything he did was manipulative. And then I'm also reading comments in there. It's like, well, it's men's standard strategy to be manipulative. There is no data anywhere showing that men have a standard strategy to be any more manipulative in a sexual marketplace than women do. None. There is none. Again, this is not backed by data. All right. Good stuff. Do we have any more? Okay, we're good. Guys, I want to keep going for another 3 hours, but I know that's probably not a good idea, and I want to go have some fun on my Friday night. Thank you guys for joining us, man. It was a lot of fun. Hey, Ryan, thank you for coming on there. Ryan is, I told you guys I was going to get a producer, and Ryan helped me out a little bit today. Do me a favor, man. Please like the video. Every video we've done has been getting, other than the one we did on the debate. That first debate video just blew up. It got 11,000 views. I really appreciate that. But all the other ones we've done, they've been slowly growing. Shout out to everybody on Rumble. I'm finally getting, it's not a huge accomplishment for some people, but I'm getting a larger number of views on Rumble. And it's good because if I ever get canceled, you guys know where to find me. You can find me on Rumble. Man, all the people on X who watch me, that part is crazy. There's so many people watching on X, so I appreciate that as well. So thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to get out of here. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'm going to do another one of these probably on Monday, definitely next Wednesday. And I'm trying to create an environment here where we can have reasonable academic conversations. But if you say things that are massively hypocritical, I'm going to call you a hypocrite, just like that one dude, the public offender or whatever his name is. And by the way, Mr. Offender, whatever your name is, you're a dipshit, and I'm laying down the challenge. You want to debate me on YouTube anytime you want. You coming after Elia because he's got clout. I got a bunch of followers on YouTube. You can come after me anytime you want, but I bet you won't. Somebody send him that clip. I'll see you guys next week.